across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Before we start anything on The Late Show with Andre Walker and Ashley Gould, why don't I tell you a little story about a girl that I met. She was a quote-unquote beautician who lived in a flat opposite Harrods that a member of the Arabic royal family used to pay for. Now, she often would invite me round for drinks, but whenever he was anywhere near, I wasn't allowed to come anywhere near the flat. The nature of their relationship and what she was doing in the West End of London under the guise of being a beautician is questionable. I wouldn't want to cast aspersions on her, which is why I've not suggested that she was a hooker, nor have I named her. But let me tell you what happened when she most recently came to Heathrow Airport. She flew in, and they said, listen, last time you came to the United Kingdom, you stayed here for 6 months, and on the very day that you were no longer eligible to stay here as a tourist, you flew out of the country, and now you've come back 2 weeks later. You do not have a visa to work in the United Kingdom. We don't believe that you're actually a tourist. We think that you live in the UK and you're working illegally. And she said, OK. So he said, we are going to remove you. And she said, can you do me a favour? Can I pick the country that you remove me to? And they said, yes, you can. She said, can you please fly me to Dublin? And so they said, if you buy a ticket to Dublin, you can go to Dublin. So she went to Dublin. She took her Moldovan passport. She gave it to the guys at Dublin Airport, where the EU allows her to stay for as long as she wants. Then she got a taxi to the ferry port from Dublin, sailed to Liverpool, got on the train and went back to her flat. Now, if you think...
It's a very long-winded way home.
If you think that is a difficult way of getting into the United Kingdom as somebody not legally entitled, then I fundamentally disagree with you. And that's why it's so important that we look at what is going on in the Republic of Ireland. People smugglers are now saying that they can guarantee that they can get you to the United Kingdom via the Republic of Ireland. Now, as you know, I am a sceptic of the Republic of Ireland, despite being a citizen of it, and I will tell you why. Because I think that this is a country which gets all of the benefits of being in the UK without actually having to be a member. And that encourages countries like Scotland and Wales to want to leave the United Kingdom. And so Scotland, the Scottish independence movement, sits round and says, well, we'll just be like the Republic of Ireland, i.e. we will have our banks bailed out by the Bank of England, we will have free movement with England, we will have the right to live and work in England, and all of these things that they get and benefit from. Oh, sorry. Missile defence by England, the Trident nuclear submarines.
They even listen to Talk. Stop listening to Talk. It's not for you. Do you have to go to Northern Ireland if you do that ruse through Europe? You can't just go from Europe to Southern Ireland to live. Don't you have to go to Northern Ireland and then do it?
Well, but it wouldn't be... I mean, I don't know is the honest answer whether she went from Dublin or Belfast, but the reality is Dublin and Belfast are quite close.
No, exactly. I'm just sort of technically, I think you're allowed to go to Northern Ireland. You're not just allowed to go to Britain unless you go through Northern Ireland.
I'm sure that's right. And maybe that story...
Ridiculous.
Maybe that story was slightly wrong, but of course the other thing you can do... Oh, I'm telling you all of them now. If you are an EU national... Right? If you're an EU national and you want to illegally work in the UK, don't do it. I'm not allowed to encourage you to work illegally. But what you do is this. You get a flight from your country to Heathrow Airport. Oh, no. What you do is you get a flight to Heathrow Airport, but then you have a connecting flight from Heathrow to Dublin, right? Listen to this for a good one. You get your passport and you check in to go to the Republic of Ireland, of which you're entitled to do because you're an EU national. Then, when you get to Heathrow Airport, they don't bother checking your passport properly because they say, well, you're flying to Dublin. But then, of course, you leave the international arrivals, go into the normal part of the airport and then have to check in for a domestic flight for Dublin. Now, all you tell them is that you're flying to Dublin, but what you actually do is not fly to Dublin because they don't do any checks that you've actually left the country. Our system is completely porous and open. Yes, that's right. If you want to, if you are a Spanish national and you want to illegally work in the UK, you just get a flight to Dublin via London and not take the connecting leg. That is it. That's it.
There's thousands of waterways. I found out even in, I think it was it Chesterfield? There's loads of waterways inland that are just landing in dinghies now. They're not even coming to the sea. They're going inland in Wales to all down the rivers now.
Really?
Yeah, and landing in the middle of Britain.
It's a crazy situation.
For the village shop, though, I suppose.
But I just think that what we have to do is, I think, be much more rigorous. The reality is, the reason people can work, I mean, you know, working illegally, well, let's be honest. I mean, if you're actually working, I mean, maybe that's not a bad thing. I think it's coming in when you're not entitled to be here and getting on benefits, which is probably the biggest sin. But the reality is, we have two immigration systems. One that exists on paper, which appears to be very vigorous, and the other one that exists in reality, where if you can come up with any reason whatsoever to stay in the UK, you'll be entitled to stay in the UK. What about the chicken nugget guy? So basically, he says that his son, he cannot be deported to Albania because his son doesn't like the quality of the chicken nuggets in Albania. Now, the child was autistic, and a change of the food he eats, yes, will cause some problems. But what that said to me is the same as the guy who molested his children and then was not thrown out of the country on the grounds of a right to family life, which was to see the children he'd molested, which, by the way, they didn't want to see him for fairly obvious reasons. What it sounds to me like, when you go to an immigration court in the UK, if you have any reason at all, even the most thin excuse, even the most ludicrous thing, if there is any reason why that judge, who is almost certainly a pro-immigration activist, if they can find any excuse to let you come in, because these judges are not idiots. They know what they're doing. They believe in an open-door policy where everyone is allowed to come to
Everywhere is captured. I mean, you know, and you're meant to return people who are claiming asylum if the situation in their home country changes. What if the recipe of the chicken nuggets changes and they're all right now? Will they return him? No, of course they won't.
I'll tell you what I thought was really interesting.
Might be better nuggets now.
When we saw the Question Time, and I think we showed a clip of Question Time a little while ago, and there was a guy who was an actual asylum seeker. He puts his hand up, and Fiona and Bruce goes, "Oh, you're an actual asylum seeker?" He goes, "Yes. I was refused in Serbia. I was refused in Turkey. I was refused in Austria. I was refused in Germany. I was refused in France.
Twice.
I was refused in Belgium. I was refused in Ireland.
Germany.
And the UK accepted me." And then she went, "But the UK needs an asylum system for people like him who've been refused everywhere else." What she didn't say was, if he'd been refused everywhere else, presumably his claim was bad.
It's a bit of a wrong one, isn't he?
Right. I mean, look, I don't mean to be rude, but how hard is it to get into Serbia? Right. I mean, you know,
Never tried.
Well, I've entered Serbia illegally.
Well, look, anyway, let's have a listen to not that Question Time. Actually,
I think I need to clarify that. I think I need to clarify that.
Clarify that before we.
Serbia makes a claim to North Mitrovica in Kosovo, and by going officially on the bridge, the Kosovans think of it, and the international community thinks of it as you remaining in Kosovo. But Serbia considers it you entering Serbia illegally.
I'm glad we've cleared that up, man. Anyway, here's Kemi Badenoch talking about, at pre-MQs, the scenes in Belfast. Let's have a listen to Kemi.
The scenes in Belfast are deeply, deeply disturbing. A man is in hospital after a brutal attack, and now families are frightened after a night of violence. There is a live criminal case, so we must be careful about what we say. But we can be clear about this. People have a right to be angry. I am angry, and people have the right to expect their politicians to secure our borders. But no one has a right to burn families out of their homes or to burn public property and attack the police. We all have a duty to stand up for public safety in every way.
OK, we are joined by Pastor Chris Wickland. Now, Chris, it's the first time you've been on the show, so before you comment on anything, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm a reverend. I'm based in Titchfield, which is in near Fareham, Hampshire. I've been doing it for about 15 years, and over that time I've slowly but surely been more aware of things that have been going on politically and speaking in, commentating on things like that and what's going on around the world and doing conferences and things, and slowly but surely that's given me a bit of notoriety, to say to speak. And yeah, and so that then led me to going to YouTube and on X and various other things and writing books. And
have you got in trouble with your church? Which church are you with?
So I've had to move to become a part of the Confessing Anglican Church to protect me, to protect myself. Really.
The confessing one? You see, yeah, you were part of the non-confessing one.
That's exactly it, yeah, that's right. I was a part of, it was just like a free evangelical church, but because I had the Charity Commission coming after me for the things that I was saying, we felt it was right that I had to become a limited company, separate myself from the charity.
For the good of the church.
For the good of the church and to protect me as well. So yeah.
What, everywhere's captured, isn't it? So what did you say that caused that?
It was actually on an X thread which was talking about the killing of Christians in Syria, and I said at that time, in context of that thread, that Islam was the biggest killer of Christians in the world.
Still going on now, no one cares,
yes.
and Nigeria, ethnic cleansing of Christians.
But it's interesting that. So, well, let's not say Islam. Muslims are the biggest killers of Christians. That is simply a fact. Now, whether they're doing it because they're inspired by Islam or because they're deluded, either way. But it is remarkable, isn't it, that our solution to genocide against Christians is to say it's not happening.
Yeah, exactly. It's just this complete
Not even
denial.
say that. They just don't talk.
Don't say anything at all.
No, that's right.
Look at Bethlehem. When Israel ran it, only till a few years ago, it was 80% Christian.
Yeah.
The home of Christianity. It's now 10%.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, this is a pattern that we see everywhere, and it happened. I mean, the whole Middle East was Christian thousands of years ago. And then obviously there was the conquest, wasn't there? And they came to Europe.
Of course, what Asher's point is something, I know it sounds really obvious, that when Asher said the whole of the Middle East was Christian, I thought, well, when was that? And of course, it starts in Jerusalem, so of course it's all Christian.
Yeah. Well, and Egypt was, Syria was.
We don't think of Egypt and Syria and all these places as being Christian countries. Right. It seems to me the problem with Islam is this. That it believes it's a completion of the process. Yeah. There is no modern Christians believe that Jews should convert or go to hell. Nobody believes that. But there is a general view amongst Muslims that you are fine being a Jew or a Christian, but fundamentally you need to complete your journey and become a Muslim, and we need to help you, force you to do that. And if you do not accept that, then you really ought to die.
Yeah, there's two things that they'll do. They'll either put you onto a jizya, which is a tax to carry on worshipping your false god, as they would say, or you literally lose your head over it.
Yeah, and it's a second. It's you can either convert or you pay a tax, or you can be beheaded. So, and they say that's very reasonable. Some of them, we allow you to pay tax, but you're also a second-class citizen.
Yeah, but actually, I saw the that camp where the ISIS brides are, and they're saying, look at what the West has done to us. Look at what Christians have done to us. We're living in filth. And the guy went, yeah, but hang on a second. You beheaded ordinary members of the public
that's right.
Just for disagreeing with you religiously. Yeah, but that's in the Quran.
Yeah,
and you think it's amazing because what she's saying to herself is, locking me up for beheading somebody is unreasonable because the Quran has beheadings in it.
Yeah. The crazy thing is that we're living in this liberal, progressive society that says that Christianity is the white man's colonising religion. When you look at Islam, Islam is the one that's colonising.
It's not a white man's religion, Christianity.
No, I know.
That's
what the liberal left would say it is.
Exactly, because I remember when I saw my first Coptic Christian and people in the Middle East, and I thought, oh, these are the original. They're more like, they're dark-skinned and everything, and they wear robes and,
So, look, what we are seeing in Britain with Zach Polanski, and what we're seeing across the world is not new. I mean, I was reading an article from the 1970s about how Ayatollah Khomeini, whichever one it is, Ayatollah Khomeini will be a man who will bring in Iran a new system of government that combines socialism, Marxism, communism with also a strong traditionalist religious view. What he actually did was shot the communists.
We all knew how that turned out.
Exactly right.
And that's what's happening here.
But there is still a view. My question, I'll tell you what, before we go there, my question is this. What is it about the radical left that they so love Islam.
Well, don't hold that thought, because we're going to take a little break and we're going to find out what the pastor thinks. We're with Reverend Chris Wickland, who's now part of the Confessing Church.
Confessing Anglican
He's
Church.
confessed. Thank God. We'll be back after this.
Amen.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is Talk, and the Reverend Chris Wickland is here. He's a YouTuber, he's a pastor, and somebody who clearly is making an effort to stand up for his people, i.e. the Christian community, by actually being honest about the threats to that community. But Chris, before the break, I asked you, why is it, in your view, that the radical left has this long-standing Islamophilia, that they absolutely love Islam? I mean, after what happened in Iran, this was the first country where radical jihadis and radical leftists had jointly taken over the country, and the radical leftists were dead within about 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I find that radical progressive ideologies tend to be very narcissistic, in that they think that they're right, it couldn't possibly happen to them. What happened in Iran, that was
They're
just
like a
one of those
girlfriend that
things.
thinks, no, I can change him, I can change him.
Yeah, exactly.
But
The thing is with progressive ideology, it's looking for an oppressor, it's looking for a victim. And the oppressor is the colonial white guy with his Christianity or Judaism, and the oppressed one are the Muslims, and that's what they've deemed. So even when Muslims protect themselves and do terrible atrocities, well, they had to do that, didn't they? Because they're the oppressed ones.
I mean, I think it's interesting what I've seen with friends of mine who are Iranian. Now, look, at the end of the day, the sort of Iranians that are going to befriend me are going to be a certain type of Iranian, so I accept that.
Yeah.
But you know, they look at Israel and they say, what has Israel oppressed? Well, Israel has oppressed people who don't want democracy. Israel has oppressed people who don't want free speech. It oppressed it in the sense that they've built something completely different. Now, the reason why the Iranians that I know love Israel so much is not because they're pro-Jewish or pro-Zion. It's just because they feel that having one democratic country in the Middle East is a beacon of hope to others.
Absolutely. I just think it's insane. You get people saying that Israel's this apartheid country, and it's like, have you ever been to Israel?
No,
it's one of the most metropolitan places on the world. I go there quite often. I love the place. And again, when you look at who's running parts of the government, you've got Arabs. It's not just Jews. It's not this apartheid.
There's Muslims in the army, you know.
But I suppose when we're talking about, because there's two sides to this that people forget. When the American military arrive and sort of fight a war for oil or whatever it is, you've got to remember, we are deliberately enforcing a world order, and that world order believes in national sovereignty for the most part. That world order believes in religious freedom for the most part. That world order believes in free speech, in property rights, international dialogue, a rules-based system, the right to defend yourself. And what they're enforcing against is a mob who say that they should take their religious text, burn all yours, and behead you if you don't like it. And so look, when I remember somebody saying to me once, oh look, you know, these Syrians, you know, we can't let Assad bomb them. We've got to bring them to Britain. You can't let them die. And I thought, well, given that they want to come to Britain, turn it into an Islamic state and kill me, I can let them die. I mean, my preference is they don't. But what I'm not going to do is, when somebody says to me, you must bring them to Britain and lose your country in order to save their life, I'm not convinced.
No, the multicultural experiment where we have to deny our identity and deny our culture so we don't offend the incoming culture, which is basically suicide to our own way of life.
Is it too late, though, now?
I think, if I may be the prophet of doom, I think that the next general election really determines the future of Britain.
I believe that.
I think it will either be, forgive me for being extreme, a Marxist Islamo state, or if we pull it back the other way, we may be able to save Judeo-Christian heritage, providing we spend the next 20 years trying to pull it away from where the left is trying to take
But would we have to deport millions of people? Because just demographically it would become Islamic State or another state,
we do have some big issues, and, you know, that's some difficult questions that politicians are going to have to deal with. But the reality of the situation is that hearts and minds need to be one, and if you can imagine what a coalition of the Greens and the Reds would look like, that kind of coalition.
Well, they shoot
on the
Polanski
left.
first, wouldn't they?
Yeah, well, yeah,
I mean,
but
that's
that's
Right.
not
That would
before
make
he
sense.
says things like, you know, there's no place for people with right-wing views in our society.
No, but I mean, look, I don't know, but I mean, I said of an Islamo-fascist state.
Yeah.
Look, what they'll do is they'll kick us all in the gas chamber, but they'll thank Polanski before they do it.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably,
that's the reality, isn't it?
Give them a couple of weeks.
Yeah, because what they'll say is, well, look, ultimately, Zach Polanski has helped us, but, you know, this has to be a Muslim country, and he is a Jew.
Yeah, I know.
That will be the attitude.
Yeah.
He doesn't... Or does he know that, do you think? Do you think... I mean, because there are some people who say that there's always been a percentage of the quote-unquote Jews who are just so self-hating that they think that they can placate themselves, so they can escape criticism themselves by hating on their own community.
Yeah, I mean, the founder of the ideology of Marxism was himself Jewish. And
he was a self-hating Jew, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I see it quite a lot, and I can't quite understand the mindset. But this self-loathing, this self-hatred, but if it's not dealt with correctly, it then manifests in basically hatred to other Jewish people.
But look,
hatred to Israel.
we are talking differently to what we would have done 10 years ago.
Yeah.
If I'd have heard this discussion 10 years ago, I'd have gone, these three are mad.
Yeah, that's right. It sounds extreme.
Yeah, absolutely. I think now most people accept that multiculturalism is not what it is. It's basically growing enclaves.
Yes.
That is to say that whether you like it or not, I think the Maccabee Tel Aviv situation was the first occasion where what David Starkey called an Islamic tribal area asserted an
Islamic tribal area
asserted an immigration policy.
Yeah.
That is to say, you cannot visit Aston if you are a Jew.
Yeah.
And the British police supported that and lied about it.
Yeah.
And that, I think, and
the fact that we just moved on from that like it was just yesterday's
But it was
news.
multiracialism that was working, and in the 90s everyone was mixing, black, white, gay, and everyone was cool, and then they brought in this...
Yeah, that's multi-ethnic, isn't it?
They
So
brought,
it's
the
different.
multi-racial, and that's fine, but we want monoculture, we want British culture, you know, you can have your little bits, but you got to be British, through and through in the middle.
Yeah.
But that's changed, and that's it.
But people actually have misunderstood this. This is the point that I continually make. When you look at somebody like, I don't know, Ian Wright or Ainsley Harriott or someone like that. Look, these people are the Windrush children, if you like. Look, they're not really that foreign, are they, if they've come from the Caribbean? Right, they might be black, but they're not foreign, in that sense. Yeah. I mean, you know, my mate who's from St Vincent has got GCSEs, right? And did his A-levels when he came to the UK, whatever. And what we've done is we've said, well, first of all non-white people are the same. That is the assumption. And because we've been able to integrate people from Jamaica, therefore we can integrate people from Afghanistan. And that simply isn't true. No. At the end of the day, when you are looking at these black people in Britain, most of them are Christian. Yep. From the Caribbean.
Yep, it's true.
Most of them have come up with grown up in a modified English or British legal system.
Yep.
Most of them, I mean, they all speak English with whatever accent, but of course it's not unusual in England to have a different accent to somebody who lives 10 minutes down the road. That's the proof that Ainsley Harriott, and it sounds laughable.
The proof's in his pudding.
The proof. Ainsley Harriott does not prove that an Afghan jihadi family can live in Birmingham successfully.
No,
it simply doesn't. No. Simply doesn't.
I was talking to a missionary today from Africa, and it was interesting his take on what's going on. So he's saying, you know,
where in Africa is he?
Uganda. So when you come from one culture to another, he said, even though he went to Africa when he was quite young and he's been there most of his life, he says you can never take that culture and your identity away from you. It's kind of hardwired into you. And he said here in Britain, they think you put them in a nice English suit, give them a nice English job, that somehow that they'll just become automatically English, get our culture. But it doesn't work like that. It's hardwired into them. And another question that
people want it to be English. I mean, you know, my grandma, would you say, where are you from? She goes, I'm English, and she called my Uncle Peter, his middle name Winston. You know, migrants wanted to be, you know, your parents, weren't they? They wanted to be British, whereas that's now seen as a bad thing, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. But one of the things that he said that brought me a completely different spin on this multicultural experiment is the damage it's actually doing everywhere else. So the draw is that they're coming here. So, for example, he's saying that his mum's in a rest home here in England that's being looked after by young African ladies, and he's saying, but now in Africa, you've got old ladies that are dying alone because there's no one there to look after them.
Yeah, I heard about this Uganda woman who's moved, I think, to Ireland, and she's a nurse. She's left her 3 kids there, so we've taken a nurse away from Uganda, and now she's getting threatened because of all the trouble, because of this stupid multicultural experiment. She was threatened by some thugs, you know, yesterday. So, and this is all because of this ridiculous mixed up the world and took out their people they needed and stopped people here getting jobs in the nursing sector. It's totally ridiculous.
I think it. I mean, it is an absolute disgrace that a wealthy country like Britain should empty Uganda of its nurses and doctors. And let's just be clear. Uganda is not a net exporter. They're not sat there saying, we've got so many doctors, we are so well supplied with healthcare professionals that we can give them to the NHS. Here is what is happening. A trade union agreement between the British Medical Association and the UK is restricting the number of people who can train to be doctors. That means there is a shortage of doctors, and therefore what we are doing is destroying the healthcare systems of other countries.
And not training our own people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're not investing in our own people in our own country, and we're basically robbing from other countries at their expense.
Do you know what?
The children that have lost their mother, their 3 children, for 3 years she's been away.
There is greater ramifications to this multicultural experiment. It's not just what's going on our shores, but it's what's going on abroad. And hearing from a missionary who's out there and seeing the damage that it's doing is...
But doesn't the Bible say... And forgive me, you're going to be a greater expert. Oh, he's nervous now.
No, I'm not nervous. I'm just getting ready.
Okay.
Yes, Bible test number 1.
But the Bible, the Old Testament. Now I'm not that familiar with the Old Testament, so just to be clear. But I have a Jewish friend of mine. He was talking to me about the Torah, the Old Testament, and he was saying that effectively, each tribe should be in its own area, and that's what the Bible basically says. And it says that when somebody comes, they are effectively like a journeyman, and what will happen is they are there to trade and to learn from you. So there should be, and it's important, it's biblical to have a cross. But what happens is, but effectively, you should not give your own land to a foreigner, because that will be... And then if they are living on that land, or if there's been any exchange, at the sabbatical... it will all revert back to its original owner.
That's right, yeah.
And so effectively what they're saying is there are immigration rules in the Bible.
Yeah, there are.
And those immigration rules are that anyone who's not from your tribe is only living here temporarily, and at the sabbatical they will return.
But also it says, you know, because we get a lot of Christians going, oh, but, you know, it's like the Bible talks about immigration, love your neighbour and all this kind of stuff. Except, yeah, but also the Bible warns quite strictly that if anyone does come into the land of Israel, it must follow by their culture, follow by their laws, so that their culture is not assimilated. And also the Bible has an awful lot to say as a curse of God to a nation when they become culturally assimilated by another culture. That's actually a bad thing.
And that's a sin in the Bible?
Yeah, and that was a consequence of sin, actually.
Okay.
So it's a curse of God
Look
to
at
a
Sodom
nation.
and Gomorrah when they misbehaved.
And is your view...
Brighton and Hove, is that the new Sodom and Gomorrah?
Is it your view, therefore, is it your view that that multiculturalism is a result of a failure, a biblically sinful failure to stand up and believe in your own culture?
Yeah, I think it's a bit more nuanced than that. I think we've done, through multiculturalism and secularism and atheism, we've done several things to our nation, and multiculturalism.
Because you can't really love multiculturalism if you believe in your own religion.
No, that's right. No, you can't. You just can't, because if you believe in multiculturalism, it means you deny your identity, you deny your culture, you deny your religion, and in the process of doing that, you create a power vacuum. You create a culture power vacuum, a religious power vacuum.
Division.
Yeah, and so then a stronger cultures coming in, a stronger, more dominant religion, it'll only a matter of time before that then becomes the dominant culture, if we have to keep denying ourselves.
I have to say, my best mate is a Moldovan, and by the way, not the woman I was talking about earlier, although I did meet her through him, obviously. It's really interesting. He is what we would term a racist. Right, and I'm going to explain this quite seriously, simply because, first of all, he does not
run-of-the-mill racist.
He does not dislike people from other countries.
Right.
However, he's strongly of the view that people from other countries should remain in their countries. Now, in terms of a wider view on tribalism, he believes that white Christians are a gang, right? And you know,
he likes to move about.
Asian Muslims are a gang or whatever.
Yeah.
But effectively, his attitude is that, and being Eastern European, I think they have some experience of this. Cultures will not live side by side. One will be the dominant culture and one will be the subservient culture. Yeah. And at the moment, the dominant culture is probably Judeo-Christian in Britain, but that will change.
Just about.
But that will change.
We're living on the fumes of yesteryear's Christianity.
And what he said is, it's not going to end the way you think it's going to end. What will happen is either your tribe will rule your land or another tribe will rule it for you. And this whole idea, and he said, look, I accept that people are trying to be welcoming and whatever, but it was interesting when, you know, his attitude that, and this will be too rich for your blood. Certainly for mine it is. But when he saw Rishi Sunak, he took the view that, look, it is not a great thing that a white Christian is not your Prime Minister. It's actually a sign that your society has collapsed. Now, I would not go that far. In fact, I think he's straight up wrong, because Rishi Sunak has assimilated to the United Kingdom. Yeah. But I think his general principle, which is to say that Pakistan is for the Pakistanis and Britain is for the British, I think in general is correct.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Obviously, you know, the ship of ethno-nationalism has sailed a long time ago. You know, we have such a diverse culture now and diversity of ethnicity in Britain, so that there's not a lot you can do about that. But I get what he's saying, that, you know, if you want cultures and people groups to survive, they'd have to have a core value system, a core culture system, and a lot of them. And as we're constantly... And this is the dangerous thing. I mean, this is what's going on that's kicking off in Belfast, is that we're now coming to this point where we're getting a clash of kingdoms, a clash of cultures.
Yes.
And our politicians don't have the nuance. They don't know how to deal with it.
It's because they've been ignored. The politicians have ignored the people, and the people have said, right, well, what can we do?
But what else can they do? I mean,
exactly, yeah,
if they voted for the right things, but they didn't get what they voted for, the politicians won't listen to them, the police don't seem to be defending them. And so I don't condone violence. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, what are they supposed to do?
The political system's failed them.
Yeah,
but if you think about it, look, when I was a kid, and we're all approximately, sorry, I'll tell you what, we're all the same generation. It doesn't matter whether we're the same age. We all grew up in a very similar situation. This idea where what we should have is all cultures should mix and all this sort of thing, and that is marvellous. That is effectively the retail equivalent of that has happened on the high streets.
Yeah.
Which is what has happened is every single high street now has an example of every single shop. So you know, the shops that used to be independent, they're all gone and whatever. Now, when I was a kid, and when you were a kid, you might go, oh, in my case, let's go to St Helens this Saturday. Let's go to Warrington this Saturday. Let's go. Now, I would challenge you. Nobody's going to say, let's go shopping in Edinburgh, simply because if I have access to London, I know what shops are going to be in Edinburgh. Yeah. There'll be nothing unique about going to...
This is what Morrissey said. He said multiculturalism is a load of rubbish. He goes, when I go to Japan, I want to see it like Japan. I don't want to see all a mixture of everything everywhere the same. That's actually ruining it, and it's sort of racist against other cultures. But I want to ask you, we're going to go to another break, but I want to ask you, is there an English ethnicity? Back after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
So obviously, Asher asked Chris a question before the break, but during the break, we often update you as to what we were discussing during the break, and we were discussing Jewish people in Britain, because I say, and I think Asher agrees, having a large Jewish population in the UK does not prove that multiculturalism works, and there are a number of reasons for that. One of them is there's not many of them, and when you say, oh well, Jews have lived in Britain successfully for hundreds of years. That is true, but you're talking about a few 100,000. Yeah. What we're talking about today, the latest statistics are in, 40% of babies born in the UK, that's 2 out of 5, 40% of UK babies have a foreign parent born in the UK. Now, that is substantially different to 300,000 people in North London, right? But anyway, Chris, Asher asked you if there was an English ethnicity.
Oh, yeah, that was it,
Are you interested in ethnicity? I suspect you're not.
No. I mean, I've actually looked into it, but to be fair, it's such a nuanced and complex thing that in the end it was like, well, we're all from so many different sources.
But it's such an old culture, you know what I mean? English is actually one of the oldest cultures in the world that's been kept going, and so you could look at people from, you know, I know people say Anglo-Saxons, they're the English, but actually there's been people here from thousands of years and they're still there, you know, living in the West Country and stuff. We were actually ethnically. And I don't think it's fair that other people have, you know, live here and have their own sort of ethnic country where they're from, but it doesn't happen with English.
What I think's not fair is no one ever asked us our permission. You know, when they wanted to do the common market, the EU, they put it to a referendum to a vote. Nobody asked us, saying, hey, would you like in about 2050, 2060 to be a minority in your own country? Is that what you'd like? No one voted for that.
And
no
Europeans
one asked
control the laws as well, not just a common market. Everyone was up for the common market.
Yeah, exactly,
But it is remarkable, isn't it? You get the sense, and it's something that you've said today, Chris, you get the sense that there are people who believe that Britain should cease to be British and become a multicultural country. Yeah. They know the public don't support it. No. And what they do is that they are trying to desperately quickly finish that project in the knowledge or in the belief, not necessarily knowledge, in the belief that there will come a day when our views become irrelevant.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, you know, there's been social scientists that have done white papers on this particular subject, and every one of them has said it's a failed project. It causes ghettoising of communities, it's bad for the economy, it strips the economy, and overall, it just fails.
It's good for the politicians.
So this idea of diversity is our strength, it's an oxymoronic statement. Diversity is not our strength, it's what divides us. It's what literally divides and conquers us as a nation.
Diverse.
But isn't it being driven by the corporates and the big people who want to basically fill in their boots? Because this is happening not just... Normally, bad things happen in one country, but this is happening, being replicated in America, in all the Western societies. You know, migrants are getting four-star hotels. It's happening in every European capital. So something's going on at a higher level, and basically politicians aren't running the country. There's... you know, super organisations above them basically organising everything and telling them what to do, and they're all in their pockets.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say, you know, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist. We don't quite know what's going on, but when you see so much of it across all the Western nations, you have to ask yourself, is this being orchestrated in some way? You know, why the obsession to do this? And again, if we put our tin hats on for a minute, if you look at the early writings of the Fabian Society, what they wanted to do was to bring in a Mohammedan culture into Britain with a kind of a communist, socialist structure. So they wanted to dismantle the Judeo-Christian heritage.
It was a 100-year plan, wasn't it?
Yeah,
as well?
But
hence the book 1984.
1984.
It's amazing the way that the political left... So the political left always, whether it be Karl Marx or anybody, wants to change who we are, right? So if you look at the idea of communism, say in the Soviet Union, they're sat there saying, look, greed we can eliminate greed, right? So somebody in my position on the TV has to balance what I'm doing in order to get my message out with vanity, the sin of vanity. And I have to sit there every day and say, am I doing this because it's important to do it, or is I don't consciously think about it? But similarly, you know, if you look at the Gordon Gekko speech that told our paper Shareholders, where he says greed is good, if you'd have put ambition in there, then you could have made almost the same speech and it would have been right. And I think that you know, it's important to push things forward in that way, but not do it and not go too far. Do you see my point?
Yeah, no, that's right. Again, it's about balance and nuance in all these things. The thing is with Marxism and socialism, Marxism is about... it's always about division. It's about, I think it was about class wars in early forms of Marxism, but now it's about gender wars and culture wars. But they believed that first of all, there will come a point, the Soviet Union believed, where greed would cease. There would come a point where vanity would cease. You're just oppressing people, so everybody's in a place of want, actually.
Absolutely, but then the problem, what happened, and the reason the communists believe that the Soviet Union failed, is that suddenly, you know, if you're not motivated to go to work to make your life, your family more successful, you have to be terrorised into going to work, and that's what happened.
Yeah. I'd just like to say that you do actually serve really good coffee here, which surprised me.
We've got an expensive...
You know what we're going to do after the break? The whole reason we got you in wasn't to talk about all this stuff. It was about you died for 15 minutes, didn't you, after a trampolining incident.
Oh, come on.
No, don't mock it. And he was saved by God, possibly. Well, we'll find out all about that. Stay with us. It's Talk with Andre and Ash, and we'll be back with that story after this.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is Talk, and God bless Poundland for these glasses. Let's read out some of your comments, because all of them have been fantastic, but we'll read out the best. Sue has said that Chris should be the Archbishop of Canterbury. Unfortunately, in your denomination, there is no Archbishop of Canterbury, is there?
No, not in this country, no,
Okay.
unfortunately.
What do you think about the Church of England? What's happened? Do you think it's dumbed down, and what's going on with it?
Come on.
I think it's woke and compromised.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me ask you this. Do bishops of the Church of England believe in God, or are they just there because it's something to do after they've finished their main career?
I don't think they can actually say that they believe in God or the authority of Scripture with the stuff that they come out with.
See, I don't think they do either.
That's a career. No. Anyway, look, we kept them back from the break.
No, hang on, we're going to keep going.
Yeah, stay there.
Somebody made the point about when I was saying that from the Caribbean, people were fundamentally very, very... No, they weren't British, they're from the Caribbean. But Sir in Belfast points out the most popular TV show in Jamaica in the 70s and 80s was British Top of the Pops, and that just shows you. I mean, you know, you're just growing up in...
Did they not have their own Top of the Pop?
I have no idea. OK. The Green Party want to ban circumcision for religious reasons. Yeah, that's another example of our friend Polanski doing in his own team. Apparently, Becca says the Church of England and the Catholic Church don't recognise the term pastor. So why are you a pastor, not a reverend?
Well, I am a reverend.
OK, fine.
Yeah.
So have we just got it wrong on the sheet?
Yeah.
Fine.
I used to be a pastor, now I'm a reverend.
Well, and what's the difference?
Sounds like a bumper sticker.
Well, a pastor is kind of like a non-denominational kind of name for a church leader, whereas for the more official sort of organisations or denominations, then it's like reverend,
and you
priest or father.
And you have to qualify in what way?
So I because I came from a pastor and I had a licence as a reverend, because of the nature of how I came into the Confessing Anglican Church, they gave me, it sounds quite painful, but Episcopal Sanctuary, which means I just...
It sounds nasty.
It is nasty.
So that is basically...
means I just retain my title.
But what that title means is you have been discriminated against in your own denomination, you are escaping it and being given sanctuary in a new one, doesn't it?
Yeah, so basically, you know, I had to do it to protect myself from the charity commission.
Do you have a church, like a parish?
So there's in Titchfield, I run a church called Living Word Church, and then there's another one in Bridgend.
They're always called stuff like that, aren't they?
I know. Yeah.
And that's an Anglican... That's an Anglican.
So no, that's a charismatic kind of church. But it's me that had to come into the Confessing Anglican Church. So I'm now a licensed Anglican, but they still remain as what they are.
I love some of the African churches, because I mean I saw one on Old Kent Road, and it had a sign up saying, if you've been possessed by demons, come in and we can help. Yeah. And I thought, you know what, they're really going for it.
Very handy.
By the way,
while you wait, can they do it?
Somebody's made a point. Somebody's made a point about billionaires being very keen on uncontrolled immigration. I'll tell you something. We have to remember, and Philip Ullman, the businessman turned sort of philanthropist, he made this as a strong point. He said, you know, the reason that Amazon will deliver you a comb for £1 is not cost-free, because they have to have all of these people coming into the country, working in warehouses for slave wages, and they're running out of people, basically, so they have to continually bring people in, and the benefit system subsidises it. So it might cost you £1 for the comb, but it costs you through benefits £1 as well. Anyway, the 15 minutes of death.
Yeah, Andy Warhol said everyone dies for 15 minutes. Let's hear about your death.
All right, so this is a few years ago, about 5 years ago. I went to the... where did I go? We went.
You were a reverend at the time?
I was a pastor at the time, yeah. So I've been in church leadership for 15 years.
So this isn't what inspired you?
No.
It knocked the pastor out of him.
Yeah, so I went to a trampoline park with my kids, and I was having a bit of a good time. I can't remember any of this. This is what I've been told. And then I suddenly started to feel ill, and I said to my kids, I don't feel very well. So they went out to, you know, where you get your shoes and stuff, and then I was sick. And the two guys that were manning the place, they came to my aid, and they could see I was not well. They put me into recovery position and said, you were just lying there and you were just watching us, and then you just died. And so
your eyes went and
they said
they got the defibrillator.
Yeah. So they said they were literally doing it for about, I can't remember if it's 15 or 20 minutes.
Did they have the machine?
Yeah, they gave me 4 electric shocks.
Ours is ready out there.
Yeah. So they gave me 4 electric shocks.
And it was a heart attack, was it?
No, it was I can't remember what it's called, AFib or something. But basically, a cardiac arrest. That's it. So
that's worse. That's your heart has actually stopped.
Yeah, it stopped.
Arrest.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And was it the trampolining?
Had you overdone it? Were you doing those twists?
No. I apparently had a problem there already that I wasn't aware
one of your
of.
valves.
Yeah, it was actually on the heart. It was like a scar.
By the way, before you explain what happened then, I mean, your children must have been all over the place.
Yeah, it did actually, to be fair, it did traumatise them.
I can imagine.
Has it, I mean, first of all, is it a family thing? Have your brothers or, relatives have been checked? And has it changed? Because I know someone had a heart attack and it changed the whole outlook on life. And you being a religious man, did it change everything from that day on?
No, not really, because
you already had it, didn't you?
But did you have any sort of experience of meeting God?
I can't remember anything. I was really annoyed when eventually I came to. But what was funny about it is that, if it's funny, is I died on a Friday. Then they resuscitated, put me into a coma because I was in a really bad way, and then they brought me out of the coma on Sunday. But of course, then all the national papers got hold of this story. Pastor dies on Friday, raises on Sunday.
It's a
then the BBC got hold of it. Then they did like one of those kind of like 999 type programs, a 20-minute segment on it. And so that. But
it is a bit of a because it's quite the odds are against when you're on a defibrillator. I think it's most don't come through when you get on the defibrillator.
Yeah. Well, when they did my Glasgow tests, it shows various tests to see if I would be okay. The doctors basically
they give you a load of alcohol. That's the Glasgow test,
probably,
isn't it?
Yeah. And they basically said that it's likely that he might not wake up, and if he does, he'll probably be drinking out of a straw for the rest of his life. So that's how bad it was.
Has it massively affected your brain?
Yeah, I had severe brain damage as far as the doctors. Yeah, I had no oxygen for 15 minutes.
Yeah, but you obviously didn't have brain damage. You seem all right.
Well, no, because that's debatable. But the long and short of it is that my wife put out on a prayer chain saying my husband's just collapsed. Can we pray? And somehow it went viral.
Oh wow, that's
went
lovely.
All over the place, even all over the world. Like
the power of prayer, you believe?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So and even when I was in induced coma, my whole body was trembling, tremoring, which means I was in a really bad way. Yeah.
But by the way, just to be clear. The fact that you didn't see the bright lights, the fact that you didn't meet Jesus, the fact you didn't see the pearly gates, that never affected you in a negative way, did it?
It annoyed me. It was like, I can't remember it, but I think...
Oh, so you put it down for you don't know what happens,
no.
but you don't remember.
I just don't remember literally the day up to it, and then the day after. Because we've got right through, even on the Sunday. I don't remember anything.
You've not really died scientifically, but you haven't really died because when you die, you ain't coming back.
Well,
I mean, try telling that to Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
It's funny. We've got a regular viewer and listener called Ken, who's an evangelical Christian. You might see him out and about with the sandwich board. He goes to protest.
We haven't heard from him for a while. I'm a bit worried.
He gets a bit annoyed with us every now and again. But it's interesting with him. He was saying that he knew he was in the early stages of a heart attack a couple of weeks ago. Hopefully that's not why we haven't heard of him.
I didn't know.
But he'd had a heart attack before, and he'd seen the lights. Mm-hmm. He'd seen Jesus, I think.
He said he cried out for Jesus.
And basically he was told it was not his time yet, so he woke back up. And from his perspective, he said, well, so of course, remember what Asher has to do. He has to say no. So he's going, well, I thought I was having a heart attack, so I decided not to phone the ambulance. And of course, Asher, be corporate responsibility, has to say, you should have phoned the ambulance, you should have. But he was 83. Yeah. And of course, because of his previous experience, he said he wasn't particularly bothered, because if it was his night to meet God, then it was his night to meet God. Yeah. And I think there's a big difference between an 83-year-old and a guy who's got kids, young kids. But it's amazing that hasn't bothered you. But I suppose you can say with confidence there's no memory.
The reason why it doesn't bother me is because how I became a Christian in the first place. Because when I was 17, I was a practicing witch, and then
what?
Yeah, and then what turned my life around was basically I know it sounds like I'm a nut job, is that the voice of Jesus spoke to me, and that's what turned my whole life around.
Nut job. Yeah, humour him.
Had you taken MDMA?
No, I hadn't. No,
because isn't the general view that the voice of God is not going to communicate with many people many times.
Yeah, it's not a common thing. But I say it's not a common thing. There's lots of people that have experienced it. I mean, my experience was I was just coming home after doing a witchcraft ritual. I had no religious upbringing, and he just said to me, and the instant he spoke to me, I knew it was God, I knew it was Jesus, I knew he was the creator of the universe, and he said, stop what you're doing, come to know me, you can be forgiven for this.
What were your mates like from the Wicca, you know, the other witches?
They presumably were not nasty to you, because they're not nasty people, are they? They're just a bit...
I had a girlfriend who was a witch, used to do all these spells with her.
Yeah.
Tie her hair up and burn it and do these smudge sticks. But what were your mates like down there?
Well, I had a few friends that were into witchcraft, but they just carried on in their ways, and you know.
Because you're from a part where there are a lot of old English.
I just sort of left that whole.
There's a lot of old English, you know, pagans and druids from your area. You probably go back to pre-Anglo-Saxon to thousands of years ago, and all the sort of pagan stuff. So it is probably in your family.
We've got another caller, Yasmin, who considers herself to be both a Christian and a witch. She likes all of this old...
She's Muslim and Jewish as well, because she's got all that blood. She's got everything in her.
She likes all of the... I mean, I think it's hocus pocus, but she likes all of these...
One of them's got to be right.
Know, if you burn white sage in June, then you'll have a good Christmas. all that sort of caper. And actually, my view on that is, I don't take a hard line with it. I think... If it makes you happy, that's fine, but it's not going to do anything. Did
it do anything for you? Your spells and everything?
Yeah. So I mean, my whole early childhood had lots of paranormal experiences. So for me, I know it sounds a little bit weird, but for me, that whole kind of aspect to the supernatural side of life, to me, is quite normal. But to a lot of people, that isn't normal. But I did some things as a witch that I'm really not proud of that actually hurt people. And so...
What, curses and stuff?
Yeah.
And they work.
But do you believe a witch's curse would work?
Yeah, Ken says that's the devil. So Ken says it's Satanism.
It is a form of Satanism. It is basically Satanism, yeah.
Well, your mates
I mean, I just think... I do think, one thing, I think very often there's a causal link problem, which is, if you're doing all these spells to try and make yourself rich, you're probably getting up early in the morning and making a big effort, which probably will
self-discipline.
Yeah, exactly. Probably will make you rich. I mean, I had a friend of mine who said that he believed in good omens, because he said, I've cleaned my bedroom and found a tenner I wasn't expecting. Yeah. And I thought, actually, if you are more fastidious, you will do better. But it's not an angel giving you the tenner.
You make your luck.
Well, yes and no. I mean, so for example, if we're on this, if you want to go down this road, so my wife,
only got 30 seconds.
My wife had a bone disease for 20 odd years. She just kept believing God would heal her. One day she went forward to get communion, and she touched the cup. This warm energy ran all up through her whole body, and she got instantly healed.
Whoa!
No, that's a brilliant advert to
Chris,
end on.
I've got to say, the feedback we've had is so positive about you. We're so glad you've come from Fairham. Please do come back again.
I'd love to, yeah.
Because do you know what they said to me in advance? We have a quick meeting before the show, and they said, this guy can just talk about anything, and I think we've proved that. We haven't talked about Belfast, but I have to say to you, I'm pleased with what we've done with Chris so far. Please do come back.
Pete Barnes is next. Stay with us under Nash on Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is the press preview with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Pete Barnes. Now, look, I wanted to talk a little bit, just very quickly, about the by-election.
Yeah.
Obviously, it means we're going to have to read out the candidates' names.
The reading of the will.
But here is the thing that I thought was really interesting about it, which is this. I say that Andy Burnham is effectively not branding himself as Labour, and the message should be from other candidates, always remember you're still voting Labour. You feel that message has got out?
Oh, definitely. Andy Burnham has not been casted in the kind of any of the Labour shadows. He's been able to keep himself separate. The problem I have with how people have treated Andy Burnham is you've elevated him. You've made voters judge him against a job he doesn't even have.
Yes.
You should have focused purely on Greater Manchester Mayor. Threatening voters with the whole Project Fear 3.0 about how bad he might be as a Prime Minister only reminds people he could be the Prime Minister and you could get rid of a very unpopular Prime Minister. You allowed the voter focus to move to a future where they get rid of something they don't like.
Yes, I see what you mean.
That's the point.
I see what you mean. So what you'd have done as a strategist, you'd have said you're not electing the Prime Minister, you're electing the MP
I wouldn't
for
have even
Makerfield.
said Keir Starmer's name at all.
Yeah.
Because it's baked in that he's going to go.
Yeah, so
Starmer,
yes, but what if you're very, very unpopular?
Whoever wins that.
So just to be clear on the point that he's making, and I think this is what's coming through loud and clear from Makerfield, it's what I call a duty voter.
Yes. Yeah,
so effectively, what has happened is people have said Keir Starmer is awful. It is our duty to the country to get rid of Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
The only way we can do that is by voting for Andy Burnham.
Yes.
We don't want a Labour government,
No.
but so fundamentally that proposition is the good people of Makerfield are encouraged to vote Labour because they don't like Labour.
Yes, because also,
which is an irony.
for a long time, Reform and all the other candidates are running around saying Labour are terrible. That is already in their mind. So when you give somebody a crowbar to get rid of a Prime Minister that everybody thinks is terrible, that being Andy Burnham, they're going to use it. Also, when you keep saying you make it about Keir Starmer and Andy Burnham, you're not talking about Robert Kenyon.
Yes.
You've somehow managed to push yourself out of the race because you're making it. You've defined yourself by somebody else, not by Reform.
Have Labour done that badly, though, that it could affect Burnham? You know, people say, I've had enough of this lot, I just don't want him because he may be Prime Minister.
There is a lot of that because the big bit of polling that came out today, only 67% of people who voted for the Labour Party 24 are backing Burnham. So actually, that's actually a lot lower than a lot of us thought it would be.
But hang on a second.
That actually could just be Reform.
Your mum and dad,
Very personal.
Your mum and dad's type of people.
Yes.
Your mum and
even
dad's
worse.
type
Oh, yeah,
people must be sat there thinking,
when will this end?
right, OK, we don't want a Labour government. But a Labour government under Andy Burnham would be better than Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
And we can make that happen. I mean, this is the first time. Look, the internal election in the Labour Party is going to be irrelevant. Burnham's going to win. Who the Prime Minister picks, who the King picks as Prime Minister has been irrelevant for a long time. It will be the leader of the biggest political party in the House of Commons. And, I mean, all of these processes, it does boil down to, fundamentally, Robert Kenyon has metamorphosised into Keir Starmer. If you want Keir Starmer to be Prime Minister, vote Robert Kenyon. If you want Andy Burnham to be Prime Minister, vote Andy Burnham. That's deeply unfair to Robert Kenyon.
But that is because the campaign did the wrong thing. Because the way that they've kind of positioned it is because, again, you elevated Burnham, gave him a job he didn't have, and then also said, Robert Kenyon is irrelevant to this. And also, the point of a local candidate, it's not a qualification, it's an instrument. You make all the national stuff about the local issue. So you kind of say, well, Andy, you had this job, why is this broken? Here's the national problem, here's how it affects you on the ground. They didn't make the connection between national to local, and that is Robert Kenyon. Just because you're from an area, it's not a qualification to be the
Anyway,
MP.
look, you vote, if you live there, vote for who you want. Here is a list, a rundown of who you can vote for.
But before we say that, can I just go for another slight
One
caveat?
more, yeah, go on then.
Another important caveat here is that we are not interested in the by-election fundamentally, and we're not interested in the Aberdeen South by-election, which we won't go into in any detail whatsoever. It's just because of the knock-on effect.
Yeah.
Therefore, everything we're saying is a comment on the national government, not an effort to comment on the by-election.
But if you're in that area, this is you vote for who you want, and here are your choices. Jake Austin, the Lib Dems, Count Binface Party, Andy Burnham, Labour Party, Dan Clark, Libertarian Party, John Dyer, Independent, Ed Gemmell, Climate Party, Paul Gould, Independent, Alan Howling, Lord Hope, the official Monster Raving Loony Party, Robert Kenyon, Reform UK, Robert Pownell, Protect the Wild, Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain, Sarah Wakefield, Green Party, Pete Ward, Rejoin EU, and Michael Winstanley, the Conservative Party. And let's start with the papers. Here we have tomorrow's papers and The Guardian. Healy's shock resignation leaves Starmer on the brink. Well, what do you think about that, Pete? We know the story.
This is...
Defence Secretary resigns.
Yes, because...
with scathing letter.
Yes, I mean, scathing is an understatement. I mean, he literally said that Keir Starmer is choosing his job over the national security and the defence of the realm. I don't think there's anything worse than that. John Healey has done more as a statesman than Keir Starmer has in 2 years.
Is there a wider significance to this, or is he just pissed off?
Well, it's to do with the defence spending.
No.
Is he making a move for leadership?
Sorry. What I mean by that is John Healey just very, very worried about defence, or is he trying to destroy Keir Starmer?
Oh, good question, because John Healey is linked more closely to Mandelson, and they have a long
Nobody says that anymore, do they?
Nobody says that anymore, but
does
it used
this
to be
take
a
him
thing.
away from that then a bit?
It could do,
himself.
but I do think if you listen to successive defence ministers and the industry, as it were, they all say that this is terrible and something needs to be done. And I don't think John Healey really wants this as his reputation as he probably leaves Parliament.
Yeah, because I think he's saying it's going to be 3% spending, and that's going to be too small. Why is it? It's just not good enough, is it? We're endangering, as he says, the number one job is to protect the country. He says the new era for defence required further investment through the Defence Investment Plan, the excellent and extensive cross-government work that completed in January, overseen by you, me and the Chancellor. Since then, you have been unable and the Treasury has been unwilling to commit the resources that the nation needs to defend the country at this time of rising threats.
Yeah, it's Ed Miliband. That's who's to actually blame for a lot of this.
Yes.
Because Ed Miliband won't back down on net zero spending. Why won't Keir Starmer get rid of Ed Miliband? Ed Miliband holds a lot of MPs in his back pocket.
And the welfare.
And that is the welfare, but also it's the MPs. He'll direct them on how to vote. So that'll do for leadership. It's all to do with the leadership battle, and it is disgraceful. He should be dragged out of that building, Keir Starmer. He is not fit to be there. We're not safe with him there at this moment. But I do think John Healey has done the right thing. And more importantly...
Is it the beginning of the end, the El Alamein?
Well, to be honest, how many times have we said it's the beginning of the end?
Yeah.
I think it's past the end. I think the end has happened.
I think we're kind of just waiting for the next candidate, which
it's
is
the end of the end.
Yeah, it's the beginning of the end of the end. But I do think, though, it is interesting how they went after Rachel Reeves first. So the Healyites, as they're called, so these people, the defence lot, they really went after Rachel Reeves. They went after the Treasury very strongly, and Keir had to come out and defend her just this afternoon.
By the way, Rachel from Accounts is such a good nickname.
You don't hear from her anymore.
No, but that's interesting, because there's a move to actually make her stay as Chancellor if Burnham does actually end up being Prime Minister, because whenever she speaks, the market doesn't move. Whenever anybody else speaks, it has a small seizure. So, because
nobody cares what she thinks.
That. And also because she's confused stagnation with stability, so she doesn't do anything. So therefore she's not going to make it worse.
She's stably bad.
Yes, exactly.
So she's
predictably bad.
Yeah. She's basically Brezhnev.
Yeah. Essentially, and I think this is
a man who, despite being Soviet president, nobody can cite anything that he did at all.
Yeah. And I think that is also, how many times have we said that actually...
He did reduce the vodka ration.
Well, he should be... that's a black market.
By the way, amen to that, brother, that there was a vodka ration.
I was going to say, yeah. But no, it is interesting that the city have basically kept Rachel Reeves in her job this entire time. And I mean, it is the threat of whoever comes next that, we
worse.
should... Yeah.
Iran strikes off again as Trump says deal is close. It's funny, isn't it? Every time he does these deals, there's insider dealing, isn't there? billions of dollars.
It's all brinkmanship. It's all push it, and then because everybody keeps saying,
But
"Oh,
who's
he's not going to
playing
do it."
who? Who's playing who? Is Iran playing Trump? Is Trump playing Iran?
I don't think anybody knows at this point because they're in the middle of these negotiations. There's so many different partners and so many different players in it now that it's very complex.
I have to say, like it or not, I think Trump disgraced himself over Zelensky because to say you hold no cards in the Oval Office and then a few months later to say that basically he's won is embarrassing.
But to be fair, I always go back to that White House bust-up was actually more to scare Europe half to death.
Which it
did. I mean, we're now talking about defence spending. We weren't doing that before that bust-up. There was literally to say, we're going to insult your Saint Vladimir, as he is in Europe, so therefore you're going to get your defence in order because if America pulls out, that's going to happen.
It's remarkable. It's remarkable when you look at Vladimir Zelensky's career and you look at his behaviour. It's amazing how popular he is.
Yeah.
I mean, to have taken the presidency in the way he did, to have imprisoned his predecessor, to have exonerated somebody or given immunity from prosecution from somebody who stole $5 billion from. I mean, let's just be clear.
Yeah.
The oligarch, I forget the guy's name, the oligarch that owns the TV channel that Zelensky was on, stole $5 billion from a Ukrainian bank and then paid for Zelensky's campaign. Zelensky won and then gave him immunity from prosecution. They would lock you up in Britain for
Oh, yes, yeah. I mean, to be honest, these days, they would probably give you money on the way out of prison. Like, they probably would struggle to lock you up human rights or something
like that. They've played a blinder in the war, though, haven't they? I mean,
this is the big point.
Russia are losing a battalion every 10 days, 10,000 men.
Igor Kolomoisky is literally the name you would make up.
It sounds like it's going to be in some kind of a video game or something like that, doesn't it? Some kind of Russian general in a Bond movie. But the way that Zelensky has been able to get the world to rally behind him, despite them not being part of NATO, not being part of the EU, there's no treaty, there's no real proper kind of infrastructure behind them. I find it amazing.
By the way, I've got to say to you, I'm learning a bit of Russian. I won't tell you the phrase, but for anybody who's interested, one of my mates was on the train the other day and there was almost a fight because somebody said in Russian, "Where is my book?" Now, if you can find the translation of "Where is my book" in Russian, just listen to what it sounds like you're saying in English.
We'll be talking about the US-Iran conflict with Matthew Hurt, Republican strategist. But basically, Russia had 1.3 million casualties, most of them deaths. And that's basically the whole Russian military is about 1.3. So, you know, they're really running out of men.
What they're doing...
Ukraine have improved the Ukraine. They've invented it. Now they want it around the world to train it. And Russia keeps just getting destroyed with this.
I think what Ukraine has got is actually a technical solution to a serious problem. In the past, the big problem with two sides that are at each other's throats is the cost of peacekeeping. Now, in a country like Kosovo, that's relatively easy. When you look at the border between Russia and Ukraine, wherever that border is finally drawn, probably not where it is at the moment, but probably not what it was before 2014. You know, the number of peacekeepers, there is no way that Europe could provide that number of peacekeepers. But if the border is virtual using drones, then I think that could, because a drone is a much safer way of doing it than having soldiers facing each other.
Oh, definitely.
And I think realistically, the drone defence system that Ukraine has now will mean that the Russian agreement will be worth the paper it's written on.
Well, it's a drone attack system now, isn't it?
It is. That's the big point.
That's the thing.
But to finish the point, look, Putin is a liar, right? However, if a line is drawn on the map, I think Ukraine, with the drone system, could defend it legitimately. And so when Russia retools and decides they're going to have another crack at it, I believe they'll fail.
Yeah, you've also got you still have the mineral deal.
Yeah.
It's all actually about the mineral deal. That's why it's so important, because it means there's going to be... With America, that means American boots are going to be right on the border.
Yeah.
That also means that there is no way that Russia is ever going to do anything, because that would mean that the American administration will be forced to retaliate. That is the point of why...
Ukraine say they can win Crimea back. They're in the driving seat now in the negotiation. That's why Putin wouldn't meet them.
By the way, talking of mineral deals, are you aware that the Kosovan Serbs want to give Trebcha the world's largest mine, Europe's largest mine, to guess who? Well, Wales.
Well, they are somewhat experts. It makes sense if you think about it.
Imagine the fantastic choirs.
Europe's biggest mine, which is in Kosovo, Trebcha, is half owned by the Serbs, half owned by the Kosovan Albanians, and that hasn't really worked.
No, I was going to say.
But it was
You
built.
don't say.
Prior to communism, it was built by the Welsh. And therefore they were saying, well, our argument is, why don't we say to Wales, it was yours before it was stolen by the communists. Now you can have it back. Can you imagine?
Are we reclaiming land?
Can you imagine?
Are we in favour of reparations now?
I mean, I'll tell you what would be really interesting. Can you imagine if the Welsh government suddenly got Europe's largest mine
I would remind you
The
that
limit, 20-mile-an-hour limits everywhere. Imagine
Plaid
that.
Cymru are now in
Yeah,
charge.
what would happen is they'd get Europe's biggest mine, and what they'd do is they'd close it down on climate change grounds.
Yeah,
that's what they'd do.
Yeah, Ed
It'd be
Miliband
disaster.
would have to concrete it over or something like that.
Yeah, Ed Miliband. Right, literally, it's the biggest economic driver in Kosovo. Ed Miliband would pour concrete down.
And right from the mine next door.
Yeah.
03444991000. We're going to be taking your calls, and if you're listening in the morning, it's going to be Jeremy Kyle, breakfast alarm cock. No, is it Dolan? It's Dolan. That's
Don't
right.
do you,
Freudian slip. It's Mark Dolan, or is it Carl?
Jeremy
We don't
Kyle,
know.
your breakfast alarm hen.
Alarm cock with Jeremy Kyle. Back after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is a Talk press preview with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Pete Barnes. And you know what? There's been a lot of news recently, and this is not about this is not in today's papers necessarily, but about all of these computer programs that we have now, where you have to rent them every month, rather than buy them, and they're all full of adverts.
Yes, yeah.
My Windows got adverts for all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, this was the inevitability of the subscription model.
Yes,
because unfortunately, people have only got 20 quid to go to one or two companies. If everybody's charging for the same thing, they were all going to be flooded with adverts eventually. I mean, they are on about ChatGPT, OpenAI. They're on about literally flooding it with adverts. Like it's going to be really bad.
By the way, is that Sam Altman from OpenAI?
Yeah.
Is he worse than Satan, or is he just like a nice bloke that people have go at?
Okay, so the big problem with AI is it's absolutely terrified of offending people. It's incredibly, we would say it's very woke. It will not offend or critique because it does reputational protection, because it wants to please you and it always gives you an affirmative answer. Yeah. It's terrified of critiquing you. So if you want to say, have a conversation, say something on the migrant crisis, it won't touch it properly. It'll talk about everything around it, but it won't talk about it in case you offend Muslims.
And then if you correct it, go, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I got that wrong.
Yes,
You
yeah,
know what I mean?
exactly.
It's really creepy.
Yeah, I've got
and more importantly, you actually can't kind of prompt out of it because it's the default setting for it.
Yeah, funny enough,
I could read your lips.
I'm right, the by-election, we're not going to read any of the candidates because I'm not going to mention any of the candidates. But I said to it, I was very interested, as you can imagine, in where the BBC Question Time from Makefield was from.
Yes.
Right, because I wanted to know if it was from Winstanley College. Right. And I said, where's the by-election? Oh, sorry, where's the Question Time from and who's on it? And it replied saying that it didn't know where it was from.
Yeah.
That was right. And then it said, Nigel Farage and Zia Youssef are on the panel.
Yeah.
And I said, but that's not true, is it? And he went, no, it's not.
I know, yeah.
I
I think on average, ChatGPT lies to you about 46% of the time.
Is that right?
Yeah, because it wants to give you a positive answer to your own opinion.
Great.
And that's a really big problem when people are asking it for advice on finance, legal stuff,
Yes.
all this kind of this stuff that you should not be asking AI advice on because it wants to give you what you want to hear. The reaffirming nature of it is very, very
But
different.
see, I use Perplexity AI,
Yeah.
but what I will do is I will just talk into it and say, I'm trying to find the statistics on this.
Yeah.
Can you I love things like where it goes, can you break down unemployment by parliamentary constituency and things like that?
So things like that is really good. Perplexity is also done specifically for heavy data research. It's built
Right.
for that.
Oh, I see.
Claude, say for example, Anthropic, so Claude is more kind of creative writing, it's more kind of that kind of stuff. ChatGPT is pure linguistics.
Are people friends with them?
Oh yeah, there's a whole thing.
Oh, they have relationships, don't they? Yeah.
We were on What Just Happened. There is I think it's 1 in 5.
One offered to marry me, didn't they?
1 in 5 young people know somebody who's in a relationship with AI.
Yeah. But the other thing, you talk about subscriptions and all that.
Well, what do they do with them?
In the future, AI, you'll just be able to say, make me a program that does this.
Yeah.
And it will code your program.
So it's called vibe coding, and it's actually the really big thing at the moment.
The end of software.
It is also the big problem of if you've spent your entire life learning to code, complete waste of time now.
Go and be a plumber or a ballet dancer.
I love that when they've got all these fad things. Like my dad said when he was a kid, everybody said become a mechanic.
Yeah.
That's the future. Fixing a car mechanic. Well, nothing wrong with being a mechanic. By the way, my dad's watching this. Right.
All right, man.
Right. My younger brother came to visit me this week, and he went, Andre, Dad has come up with some strange things over the years.
Yeah.
Right. He said.
I love it when like brother or sister have these kind of conversations. Mum and Dad have lost it.
Right. So
His dad's Roy Walker, by the way, catchphrase.
No, he's Jack Walker, the owner of Blackburn Rovers. So when I said my dad was in football and his name was Walker, but anyway, so my younger brother went to fix his car. My dad went, I've got a brilliant mechanic. It's the guy I go to. It's a guy called Chris. Right. When my younger brother arrived to meet the mechanic, I will give you both a guess about what he found about this mechanic, Chris. What do you think? What is the strangest thing that it could be? So you could first of all think
it was a woman.
It was a woman. No, it was not a woman.
Kylie Minogue, your neighbour, she was a mechanic.
Doesn't know how to drive.
Yeah, so they can't drive.
Yeah,
he can't drive. He can't drive. Yeah, he's blind.
No.
No.
Oh, well, they make good piano tuners.
Yeah, I'm going to say piano tuners, but also that sounds like the greatest kind of British kind of film ever. You know, it's going to have something like it's going to have Rupert Everett in it or something like that.
Sandra Bullock, because she's in everything.
Yeah, but it'd be good for
this summer. Enjoy the comedy show of the year.
If you want to get your car tuned up, that's where you want to go, isn't it?
Yeah, there's also like you basically this is where AI comes back into it, where there's programs where you can just do it yourself. So even being a mechanic is not even the best and most kind of job safe industry. Funeral director. Everybody dies.
But they say it's a dying industry.
Ironically.
But do you remember in COVID, they said ballet dancers have got to retrain as computer. It's now the other way around. Computer engineers have got to train as ballet dancers. Get your ballet tunes on, lads.
I tell you what. Talking of funerals, so even though
depressing, isn't it?
Even though my mum was a Catholic, because my mum and dad live on the church estate, or she lived on the church estate, the Church of England very kindly allowed my dad to pick a plot for her grave, which was a nice thing to do in quite difficult circumstances. So ironically, I watched the guy dig the grave. I mean, I did because it was just out the back garden, right? Yeah. So I walked up and had a bit of a. By God, those blokes are strong.
Yeah.
Bloody, he was really going for it.
Rod Stewart was a gravedigger.
Was he?
Yeah, I think he was.
I I love the way that they called Charlie Mullins Dino Rod Stewart. That's superb.
You know, your dad lives on the church properties. He's checked he's not... Because, you know, there's those chancellery laws where if you live on the land, you have to pay like £1 million for the roof. There's only 3 of you live there.
Oh, yes, we have
you
checked that. Yeah, we have checked that. Oh, believe me, that was the first thing we checked. Mind you, although, and I'm very sorry to say this to the Church of England in the Liverpool diocese, what is the first thing they did? Resurfaced the private road and gave him the bill.
Yeah.
That's the first thing they did.
Because chancery laws, if you live in the countryside, there might only be 3 people. If you live on church land and the roof goes, there's some old 1,000-year-old law. You all have to pay for the roof. It could be £1 million between 3 of you.
I'll tell you what, I don't think the Church of England are villains in that respect.
They've got billions in the bank now, haven't they?
The problem is, it's people like English Heritage.
Yes,
Who said, so basically, the chancellery rules were, the roof's leaking, get on the roof and fix it. No problem there. Now what happens is English Heritage come up with, well, we've got to use
this 8th century way of doing it.
Exactly. And so basically what's going to happen is unfortunately, the quarry where the stone came from no longer produce it, so now you're going to have to get it from Botswana.
Yeah.
Right? And now, and also, you know, the guy who chips this away, right, that skill's been lost, so we're going to have to get someone in training at college to learn how to do it, and they earn 80 grand a year, whatever. It's a bit of a shame. Anyway, the reason why we're riffing a little bit is because everything on the front page
is the same.
It's just John Healy.
The Daily Mail, God help us, military leaders warn we haven't faced such a global threat for generations, yet Starmer and Reeves have put welfare and net zero before National Security's Defence Secretary and his number 2 quit over a funding rise of just 0.08%. And another story, the law professor who freely admits I'm a psychopath.
That's a weird one.
Anyway, we've got to take a little break.
Do you remember, hang on, do you remember the psychopath life coach incident?
No.
Right, the psychopath life coach came in. I didn't want to have him on, right? But, you know...
I do remember this,
and he came in when me and Danielle were presenting.
Yes, I do remember.
And she went, hey, you want to be careful. Andre's quite offensive. And he went, don't worry, I'm a psychopath. Nothing can offend me. And I sat there and I thought...
challenge accepted.
I wonder. And what he did was... Right, he made a classic mistake. So first of all, he talked down to Danielle, which I thought, I'll have you for that. Doesn't matter. But also, he didn't understand what university accreditation meant. So he said, I've got a properly recognised accredited course. I went, no, you haven't. And he went, yes, I have. I'm accredited by the trade body. No, that's not an accredited course. And because he didn't know, I just nailed him to the desk. He was, by the end of it...
Not literally.
He was taking...
Oh, literally.
Can I tell you, you know how he said because he was a psychopath he couldn't be offended? He was wrong.
Yeah.
He was wrong.
Yeah, also... Sorry, go on.
No, go on.
I was just going to say, never say, like, I can't be offended. All anybody's going to try to do is offend you the entire time.
Anyway, we've got a little story in the Daily Telegraph for a little taste before we go to the break. A sheepdog reported for rounding up sheep. A sheepdog, and it was his own sheep. He was only doing his job. So a sheepdog has been reported to the RSPCA for worrying sheep, but it was his own flock. It's even wokery has passed into the agricultural animal world as well. That's his job.
Hey, by the way...
That's insane of a
story. By the way, the other thing in the news is Wegovy, the weight loss pill, has been approved. I'll tell you what, after the break, we're going to discuss whether we're going to take it.
After this.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh. This is a press preview with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Pete Barnes. And I have to say to you, Pete, it is Pride Month.
Ugh.
Every year, corporate Britain takes less interest.
Yes.
Now.
Yeah.
They've realised it's divisive. They've realised that it's not pushing gay rights anymore. It's pushing trans rights, which can be seen as abusive. I have to say,
I've
though,
just seen the story.
I've been reading in the papers about Hello Fresh. Should we say what they've suggested?
I hope no one's having their dinner.
What they said is that they're bringing out special products that are high in fibre to celebrate Pride Month. That is just revolting.
Yes.
That's just absolutely...
Fibre is good for you.
Well, yeah.
We'll explain in the break.
Fibre.
Yeah.
Clears you out. I mean, that's just revolting.
Bran flakes.
Yeah,
but,
very regular.
yeah, but just think about the connection with Pride Month.
Yeah. No, but
have you actually got it?
Well, maybe. I mean, I don't know.
I was saying Google it, but don't.
Right, so they've said, especially for Pride Month, we're going to give food that's got more...
Oh, it's called prepping.
Extensive lineup of high fibre
Prepping
recipes.
is a special
right, so they said,
word, and it's
they said, we know eating isn't always top priority this month. We respect that, but for those who are ... prepping ... we have an extensive lineup of high fibre recipes available.
I didn't know that was a thing.
That is absolutely revolting.
Yeah.
Does
but
that...
healthy.
The thing is also, you know,
It's
there's
not
a community that
healthy. No, I mean,
complains about hypersexualization. It complains about body image. It complains about all this stuff, and then that is what they allowed to happen on their name, so people could sell stuff. It infuriates me.
But isn't the Pride Parade? It started being the... You know, we are gay and we are proud of ourselves. It's now turned into, let's rub your nose into whatever the most perverted thing we can come up with. I mean,
and your children's noses.
You know, guys walking around in nappies and all this sort of stuff.
And Ken's nose.
Yeah, it's when the kind of fetish and the kink stuff has started to come into the mainstream, and there's actually a huge revolt against it within the kind of LGBT movement.
But the whole,
particularly gay
it's
and
damaged
bisexual.
gay rights,
It
basically,
really
because it's ruined it for they'd become normal.
It's on the back, like support for gay rights and gay marriage is actually on the decline. Interestingly, just before you start, Reform UK actually have the most high percentage of gay and bisexual men for the first time.
Really?
More gay and bisexual men are voting for Reform UK than any other political party.
Yeah, but to be fair, Ernst Röhm was gay.
Yeah, it's also because most of them are now in professions where they get taxed a lot.
Yes. But I think it's quite interesting that if you were to walk through a Pride Parade now, what you would largely see is people who are displaying their own sexual fetishes.
Yeah.
And what amazes me is when people go, "Oh, they're so brave."
I don't get
brave.
it.
Walking around in your underpants is not brave.
I'm going to say it would be
quite brave.
Yeah, it would be if it was like October, because it's cold. But they do it in June. It's not cold.
But the fact.
Yeah, it's the constant need for validation.
I think it's the narcissism of all of it.
Yeah.
Well, Ken had naked men that were aroused on bicycles riding around him, mocking him.
I've never understood how
And
they
he
get
always
away with
ended
the
up in the
naked
middle of
bicycle
them
thing.
every year.
but
Without fail, Ken would be in the middle of all those.
The problem I've got with nudity on the streets is this. I think if you were to think about it logically, I think banning it is weird.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it. I don't want people to do it. But the idea that you were born naked, you were designed by God to be naked, because they weren't naked in the Garden of Eden, assuming that's true. But then to make it illegal would be strange. I just think it's something you shouldn't do. We should just all know.
Just don't take your pants off in public. Don't do that. I think it's a general rule. But
Now, if you want to take your pants off, there's a one day when you can. And the bike ride, do they still do that?
Well,
bike
yeah,
ride?
they do. And also they had the no
trousers
No
one.
pants Friday.
Yeah.
The
tube.
The no trousers one. They say that they will not allow you to wear anything that's obscene.
Right.
What they are doing is they say it's actually just an eccentric nutter thing. It's not intended to be.
Yeah, but put a towel down on Commando Tuesday.
To be honest, you should really put a towel down if you take a seat on the tube anyway. God knows what. Do you remember there was all those lice and everything? It was awful.
Oh, yeah. You know, the tube has its own species of mouse and flea.
Don't call Sadiq Khan that.
He's got fleas.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're 150 years old, so it's got its own evolved, flea down there.
I'll tell you what I did.
The mice are lovely. You see them running around.
I did a free. I don't mind little house mice.
They're not. They're blind. They're specific tube mice, and they're amazing little.
They're blind.
They're always on strike.
Yeah, they're
that's
blind.
the
'Cause they
problem.
don't need to see in the dark. They're totally blind.
They have to stop because there's a signal failure every now and then.
Danielle says Ash channeling Hal is completely unnerving. Gives me the willies. Just wanted to point that out. Oh, Danielle in Denver, I can read your lips. Danielle.
Who is Hal?
Hal was the
2001: A Space
computer
Odyssey.
in 2000, basically the AI in 2001. It was 1969 film. And Hal is basically one letter after
IBM.
IBM, one letter before IBM, which he denied Kubrick. And,
Well, yeah. It's
do
like
that,
when
wouldn't he?
somebody asked Steve Jobs, was it the Apple? Because it was it's how Alan Turing got given the injection, the chemical castration, and he said, "I wish it was true that was the reason." I've always liked that story, but yeah, the Hal one's it's always a good one. But
I love the US Secret Service rifle, the GAR, which is just another rifle.
Just
just call it that.
Sure.
JAR.
Yeah, it's also fun listening to a lot of people talk about in what's the
Naked Bike Rides this Sunday.
Yeah, Ken will be down there. Make sure you go and. Ken will be down there.
Do you know what I might do? I might
participating or protesting.
Protesting.
You could do both.
He protesteth too much.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's Andre and... have we got a little break here? No, we haven't, have we? No.
I just
Daily Telegraph, Healy torpedo storm, we know about that. The World Cup starts here, we all know about that. We've heard about the sheepdog done for chasing sheep and worrying them. Civil servants paid £11,000 to work past 5 p.m. Supermarkets to sell weight loss pills, and you're talking there's some new pills out that make
the
you lose weight.
Wegovy pills. I might do it.
But isn't it the same thing?
See, look, Pete, can I ask you this?
Yes.
You lost a lot of weight just at the time.
I've never been more irritated in my life. I actually tried to diet and actually look after myself at the same time as that Majuro stuff
That's
came
right.
out.
Of course you
Everybody
did.
is on
Jimmy
the Majuro.
Hill,
The
Jimmy
thing is,
Hill.
I'm actually terrified of needles. I can't watch them on TV or anything like that. So the idea of me taking them
Very
voluntarily is
convincing,
laughable.
Very
I'm the same.
convincing.
I'm the same. I didn't even like the film Trainspotting. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
I couldn't be a heroin addict.
No.
I mean, there are other reasons.
I've always wished. I'm very thankful that I'm not diabetic.
Oh, yeah.
Because I couldn't do it. I generally couldn't do it. But yeah, I've never been more irritated.
You've never had a little prick inside you?
No,
Hey.
I'm surrounded by them most of the time.
No little ones welcome.
No, but yeah, it's because the problem with these weight loss ones is you've got to keep the lifestyle. Like you either once you come off them, the kind of you tend to put the weight.
You can't do it permanent, can you?
What did you do?
Me losing weight, I actually did portion control and I stopped drinking quite a lot.
Portion control.
Yeah, I bought.
He does like his portion.
But I didn't think you were a beer man. I thought you were more a gin man.
Yeah, but I was drinking a lot. I used to drink pretty much every day, and then I just didn't have time. But also, but the big one was just portion control. I bought smaller plates and smaller pots and pans and stopped
My mate did that.
Yeah.
Alan Sugar's, that was the Alan Sugar theory.
Yeah.
Get some bloody small
I
plates.
stopped
and
trying to
bloody
do
small
rice for a
cutlery.
small village and just actually do pasta for
Well,
one person.
no, I'll tell you what is difficult when you live on your own. When you sort of go, oh, I've done 3/4 of the bag anyway.
Yeah, or the 2-for-1 deal.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? I may as well have them both,
Yeah.
you know.
Do you reckon also... The problem is, it's causal link, isn't it? Single people are fat. Well, it could be that fat people are single.
Yeah,
It
what
depends
came
on-
first, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, the fat person or the single person.
Pete, you are disgusting. This is from Peter. You're a disgusting homophobe. As soon as you mentioned gay pride, he said, yuck, is talkTV a homophobic channel that tolerates people like Peter?
I'll tell you what we should say. I would advise that viewer to contact Lauren Webster at talkTV and say that you're concerned that Pete Barnes is a homophobe.
Yeah.
You will look very silly
Yes,
indeed.
You will look very silly. Literally turn on YouTube. You'll see why you look very silly.
I think we should do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it. It could be a self-hating one, though. Yeah.
Oh, that internalised homophobia argument is the most stupid thing you've ever heard.
No, I think there's a reasonable argument. I think there's a reasonable argument for saying that Pride is actually undermining gay rights.
Oh, it is, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, nobody talks about gay rights. It's all trans rights. It's pronouns in an email.
Yeah.
Do you know the gay community has a huge drug problem, homelessness problem, mental health and employment problem? What do we talk about? People's bathroom preferences.
Yeah.
I mean, at what point do we say that one element of it has dominated and kind of ruined the other bit? Why do you think the LGB Alliance has never been more popular?
Yeah.
You know,
is that Dennis Kavanagh thing?
Yeah, it's really, really popular now, and also the fact that they're trying to shut it down tells you that they're trying to make it. That they're making a point.
Yeah.
You know, they're
actually fairly fascistic, aren't they?
Well, to be honest, I was when I hosted on Friday. I had Kate. I can't remember her surname, but she's one of the directors there. We were talking about the reform thing because they didn't put the pride flags up, and everybody lost their minds over it. And we were.
Sorry, just to be clear, you were talking about the fact that reformed councils have not put the pride flag. Yeah. Sorry, people may not have watched.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah. So they've reformed councils. I think it's Havering and I think Essex County Council as well. They've not put the pride flags above the council buildings, and people have gone, oh, it's homophobic and all the rest of it. And people are saying the pride flag, the progress thing, or whatever it is now, is a political symbol. It's not just about gay rights or anything. It's a movement. It's got an ideology behind it, and it's not right for a council building to push an ideology. I don't think it's a controversial opinion.
No. By the way, just looking at some of the other outlets, they're talking about this at UFC. So the UFC at the White House, when is that? It's all been built?
Yes, yeah. $60 million, I think it's cost, and it's literally right outside the White House. And Donald Trump was like, I think we should just keep it here. And everybody lost their minds, you know.
I mean, is this naked commercialism, or is it basically him saying, I just don't care? Because it's going to be good, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, I think it's also along the lines of, you know, you don't like Middle America, you don't like what these people like, but I'm going to stick it right in the middle of DC, and you're all going to have to pay attention to it.
It's scheduled for Sunday.
Oh, is it Sunday?
Let's see.
It is basically Biff from Back to the Future.
I'll tell you what time is it broadcast in the UK and what channel? I think we need to work that out, don't we? We need to work that out. Are you going to be watching, Pete?
I don't really like it very much, but I can't wait for the reaction to it.
OK, it's being shown on Monday, the 15th, and that's because it's at 1 a.m.
Yeah, right, OK.
It's not Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks,
It's on TNT Sports, Paramount Plus, HBO Max. What are they?
It's not Dickie Davis presenting it,
they're all the...
It's on Amazon TNT Sport. I mean, you should tune into Talk Sports. They do all that. Gareth A. Davis, he knows all about it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about
Vanessa.
that.
She does all the
Vanessa
MMA
Feltz.
stuff. No,
Vanessa Feltz,
she's a big UFC.
Vanessa Feltz.
Vanessa Ambrosio.
She'll beat the crap out of you. No, Vanessa D'Ambrosio are amazing sports presenter and makeup artist.
That makeup artist. You always get. She goes on a bit though, doesn't she?
Oh, she's lovely, Vanessa, and she does my hair in the ponytail.
Yeah, I mean, like, she has to deal with us, so let's be real.
Yeah, and she's a brilliant sports presenter.
I think one of my formal complaints was from one of the makeup artists.
It wasn't from her.
No, it was from me.
It's not from her.
It was from that other one.
It was from that one that looks like a witch. Oh, sorry, shouldn't have said that.
No, she looks like Betty from Frank Spencer. No, Betty. Oh. Anyway, we have got a break here at this juncture, so we shall do that. Don't forget, Mark Dolan is going to say this was a much more researched and show.
What type of clock is it?
Oh, yeah, it's the breakfast alarm clock, but it's not. It's Dolan. Hello, viewers and listeners, and we'll be back, Andre and Ash, after this.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is a press preview, and just to be clear, the press is dominated by the story of John Healey's resignation.
There is actually another one that's quite interesting. That's Al Kearns. He was the Armed Forces Minister. He's also resigned
as well, yeah.
But he's also one of the people who's kind of tipped to be a potential candidate to run in the Labour leadership.
Right. Why would the Defence Secretary not be thinking of running himself?
I think probably he's been around too long, realistically.
Yeah.
I think he just kind of doesn't want to have the fact that he was the Defence Secretary, but we didn't have an army, as his kind of reputation as he leaves Parliament, probably. I think that's realistically...
Also, a bald man has never won against a man with hair in a general election.
Yes, that is the JFK theory.
Yeah.
So it was JFK was the one that mainly made the modern politician with the suit and the haircut and the electable hair and the voice and all that. He was actually the father who kind of created all of that, Joe.
I mean, yeah, because there was a famous...
Hated Britain, Joe Kennedy, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Oh, yeah.
They also made all the money out of bootlegging, but yeah.
That's right, criminals. But the Kennedy and, what's his name, the one who resigned impeached, Nixon, the Kennedy-Nixon debate that they did, it was interesting because this was the first time they realised the visual importance of the Prime Minister. And they said on the radio, they interviewed people and said, who won that? And they said Nixon won it. And then the people who watched it on the TV said Kennedy won it because Nixon was ill and Kennedy had the suntan and the hair and everything.
It's the sweating,
And since then, in this country and in America, a man with hair has never lost against a man without hair. There's been bald men win when they're against another bald man, but it's the superficiality of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
So he wouldn't really be able, we wouldn't want him as Prime Minister.
No.
He looks like a chauffeur.
But also, remember, a lot of bald men went for the comb over. You've got to get the buzz cut now. I mean,
I think it depends what the shape head you've got.
Trump's a comb forwarder.
It's just a comb all over the place.
So the claim that his daughter made, Donald Trump's, about how his hair was constructed, which she later went back on and said she was only joking, but she claimed that he grew it extremely long at the back.
Yeah.
Now, for those on the radio, I'll try and explain it in a sensible way. Then combed it completely forward so it was over his face.
Like the Flock of Seagulls, the band.
Then glued to his head the hair, and then
flipped it back.
Yeah. So it looked like a big quiff.
Somewhat. It's like
and he patented
like a pastry, kind of like pastry, like puff bread.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Mr. Pastry, yeah. I remember we had Don
Somebody
King.
said I looked like Flock of Seagulls.
You do a bit, yeah. In the Hall of Mirrors. But no, we had Don King on, and he's got the hair like that, sticking up. And he said his reason was, he says, one day I woke up at night and my hair was just going up, and I was putting it back down. I couldn't put it down. It's been like this ever since. You know what I mean? He just made it up.
Yeah,
he obviously did it himself.
But I have to
you ain't going to argue with me.
No,
with
it's
him.
the
He
interesting
killed
thing
a few
when you
people.
talk about how a politician looks. How a female politician looks can make or break their career. Like, you don't want to be too attractive, and then you can't look too much like a school matron either.
But do you not think there was the American woman political hairdo?
Oh.
You know, that blow and set that Maggie has?
Thatcher, I mean, that
was all created. That was the best thing. Like, when she first came into politics, she had a very high-pitched voice. She had I can't remember his name, but he gave her the pearls and the handbag and the look and the voice.
The one we had on the show, Stephen Allen.
Was it Harry Neve?
That's it, yeah.
He did see Stephen Allen and Janet Brown as well, the impressionist who gave her advice on how to do speech and to lower her voice. That's when she lowered it.
Yeah, because it's what we call the Prime Minister voice. It's that when you speak for the nation, you don't want to sound like you kind of Joe Pasquale, but then you don't want to sound like you're kind of in a war.
But do you not think I said to Stephen Allen, what is amazing about the Margaret Thatcher voice is that nobody does an impersonation of Margaret Thatcher. They all do an impersonation of Stephen Allen doing an impersonation.
You do a very good Thatcher.
Oh, my Margaret Thatcher is definitely Stephen Allen.
Your best one is King Charles. Yeah. I've always loved that one. Yeah, but the voice thing is a big thing. But obviously,
I love the way we call him King Prince Charles.
I get it all the time.
That's superb.
All
King
the time.
Prince Charles.
King Prince Charles.
You know, if I ever met him, I'd say to him, do you know behind your back, everyone calls you King Prince Charles.
Yeah.
Because you've just been so... He's been so Prince Charles for so long.
Yeah.
He's so Prince Charlesy.
Yeah, he's just Prince Charles.
Because
Peak Prince Charles.
People always forget that, obviously, she was the longest-serving monarch ever, but he's the longest-serving Prince of Wales ever.
Yes, have that.
I think one will be remembered more than the other.
Well, yeah, but actually, I was thinking about this when people go, King Charles's reign will be forgotten. Yeah, but actually, he'll still be the most famous Prince of Wales ever.
True.
And there's a lot more footage of him than the Queen in many ways, isn't there?
Which is basically, you've been the best ever vice president. Well, okay.
Well, they do say that the vice president is the political equivalent of a warm bucket of spit.
Yeah, that's right.
I think the most important person in that reign was Prince Philip, because when he died, the Queen sort of fell apart, and it seemed he was running things.
Well, he was the one that made the coronation on television. He wanted to open
and
the
it's a bit like
there.
Prince Albert with Victoria. He was running things.
But also, if you think about it, at that time, for a man to take the back seat to a woman in a marriage, from that kind of era and kind of class, is astounding to me. Yeah. And he never really gets the credit.
He got a lot of benefits.
He said
he
had a good time. Yeah, but he said he was the only man in the country whose children weren't named after him.
Yes,
I mean that's a remarkable thought. It's, I mean, I think the Queen Mother was incredibly powerful. I think when she died, then of course Prince Philip really sort of came into his own. Yeah. But yeah, you know, it's, I think if you're going to turn around and say about Charles, well, he was the greatest Prince of Wales ever. That's not bad, is it?
No, it's
not. That's not crap, right?
No, but also I think how he handled the.
Who was the best ever Duke of York?
Oh, well,
the grand old Duke of York, who ran to the top of the hill and down.
I'll tell you what. Do you ever remember somebody said to Sarah Ferguson once, right, when she was Duchess of York?
Yeah.
They said, it's interesting, really, because I thought it was the Duke of York who was supposed to have had 10,000 men. She didn't laugh. She didn't laugh at all.
I thought that was quite funny.
That's awful.
Yeah. Because at least you can say, well, I marched him up to the top of the hill.
She didn't march them down again.
Yeah. But that's the joke, is no, I sent them down again.
It went over my head, as usual.
But,
this is an interesting little microcosm of the NHS and the state it's in the Times. £70 tax bill for 50p pill proved hard to swallow. When he was Deputy Chief Medical Officer for England, this is in the Times, during the pandemic, Professor Sir Jonathan Van Dam became known for his use of football analogies to explain COVID. Now he's highlighted an NHS own goal, revealing that it tried to spend £70 on a taxi to deliver a 50p tablet because he only got 4 in his packet because they only had that at the pharmacy. And so they said, oh, don't worry. They offered to send a taxi to pick up 1 tablet that cost 50p at a cost of around £60–70, and so this is the state that we're in with the NHS.
It's procurement, but it's not just the NHS; it's right across government. The MOD is
and cabs. It's buying cabs for everyone and interpreters and stuff like that when they don't need interpreters.
I'll tell you what. I often on that subject, I go on to the job websites and look for these interpreters, and the number of people where they're going. Sudanese interpreter required for the NHS. I find it offensive.
I do, but when it comes to this stuff, when it comes to the actual kind of buying of things, the NHS is absolutely terrible at negotiating contracts. Awful. And also, trusts don't talk to each other.
No.
I find that
There's people making money as well, though, aren't there? Millions of pounds
it's also people sitting on their backsides behind a desk making a lot of money not doing anything.
The problem
their own jobs.
The problem is, and I know this is going to sound unrelated, but you know, when the war first started in Ukraine, a lot of the armoured vehicles that they wanted, that the civilian services wanted, were in the UK, simply because Security Corps were picking up less cash than they used to.
Yeah.
Right. What happened was the bidding war were all between people trying to send the vehicles to Ukraine. And so these vehicles, which had been condemned and scrapped, and they were in the scrapyard, we're now going for 10 grand each. This is what happens in the public sector. And we used to see it mostly with regional development agencies. When a Japanese car firm would say, I want to come somewhere in Europe, and the Welsh and the Northwest and the Northeast and Scotland would all bid against each other. With taxpayers' money, and the Japanese car firm would go, we've been offered 5 million by the Northeast, and the Northwest would go, we'll offer you 7 million. And we're just all bidding against each other.
It was like that with the Sun News of the World. They'd be bidding over over a same story, and they were in the same thing anyway. Steve says, Ash, do your Max Spygraves impression, Stephen in Bristol. I don't really do an impression, but I've got a story about Max Spygraves. When he came on the James Wales show back in about 1997, 98, I used to take them next door after the show and get a little voiceover from them. So I took Max Bygraves in the room and I said, Max, can you just do a little voiceover for us? Just say, you know, hello, I'm Max Bygraves. And he went, it's OK, Sonny. I've been in this business 50 years. She's quite aggressive. Don't mess with Max Bygraves.
I remember when my older brother used to be a radio presenter based at Oral Lodge in Wigan, and he and what they used to do was the media group which you worked for, didn't you? Because we still own.
In Thingamajig, yeah.
So they still own the local. Yeah. So what they'd do is they'd interview on like talk radio or whatever a big star. And then they'd get them on the ISDN line to all the local radio stations. So they'd go, hello, I'm Britney Spears. And whenever I'm in Leeds, I listen to Radio Air. Yeah. So TQ was coming on to do this for Wire FM in Warrington. You know that 3 times from my homies in incarceration. I can't... Right, so she comes on and he goes, whenever I'm in Warrington, I listen to Dominic Walker. It's just Dominic Walker. Yeah. Yeah, no problem, man. No problem, man. I'm going to Dominic Walker. Like, Dominic Walker. Just Dominic Walker. He said they tried it for about half an hour, and in the end just had to scrap it because he was incapable of saying the word Dominic. He was like, Dominic Walker.
Yeah. Anyway, look, keep listening, because if you're listening in the morning, it's going to be Mark Doran. Hi, Mark, what's going on? Well, it's going to be a great show. Much better than one you've just done. You don't revise. I've revised a lot, so join me after the news. Carry on, guys. We're back in the room.
Yeah, OK. We had to take him back in the end, didn't we? When I saw Mark Dolan after he came back from the other place, I said... The first thing I said, he went, now I'm here with Andre Walker. I went, well, that ended badly, didn't it? and he just went, yeah. I think...
How you say that? Now I'm here with Andre Walker. You can say how the inflection bit.
I got told, and let's just be very oblique about this. They only had him to fill in, so they didn't get into any trouble for the previous guy.
Oh, don't say that on air. Anyway, we're really coming to the end of this, Sarah, so thanks to Pete there.
Thank you for having me.
Anything you want to say? 10 seconds for Pete's final thought.
Yvette Cooper might resign pretty soon, and nobody cares, which I find hilarious.
Yeah, that's right. Nobody
cares.
Nobody
cares. All forgotten. Anyway,
there's only one person who cares who Yvette Cooper is. Ed Balls, yeah. When he said on his TV show...
Call us. Call us 044. There's the number. Give us a ring. Back off the news.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Do you know what? I have just said to my producer and to Ash, do you remember the last World Cup opening ceremony in the USA? And before I could finish the sentence, the guy went, Diana Ross missing an absolute sitter when she was supposed to kick the ball into the goal. The goal was going to split in half.
She's still split in half because the bloke pressed the button. She was in her high heels, though, and she missed it. Yeah.
She just toed it.
She toe poked it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nearly, it was like a Beckham, penalty, like Stuart Pearce.
It nearly went for a throw-in, is what the producer just said.
Yeah.
She said she missed an absolute sitter.
Really
it was
did.
unbelievable.
And she never played again after that.
Unbelievable. You know what? Oh, it's such a shame. I wish we'd have got that footage. Oh, anyway, we can't do it now. But, yeah, it's fair to say. And everyone was going, trust the Americans to put in the opening ceremony of the Football World Cup the worst example of poor footballing ever.
And they don't even call it football. You know, in America, they go soccer ball. Hey, guys, you want to come for a game of soccer ball? That's what they call it. Ridiculous.
Well, I mean, the thing is about American football.
Hot dog.
I mean, the ball is just coincidental to the fight, isn't it?
Yeah, they're
I
not
mean,
bothered to do it. There's a ball and it's not egg-shaped.
I'll tell you what I always love. If you want to wind up an American.
Oh no, we've got
what
one
you
on
say,
in a
no,
minute.
but what you say is what is rugby? It's like American football, but without body armour.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, talking of Americans, we've got.
I hope you didn't hear that.
We've got Matthew Hurt here. He's a Republican strategist. Matthew, look, the first thing we've got to say is well done for not having Diana Ross on at the opening ceremony of this World Cup.
Yeah, they had.
Well, Andre and Ash, it is exciting, and we've imported your fans for what you call football, and they can't seem to handle the weather in parts of the country. So, you know, welcome to the States for all the fans who've come over to enjoy.
But I've always wondered how Prince Harry survives in California, given they haven't invented Factor 50,000 sun cream.
He's got it.
His wife is full of hot air anyway, so
yeah, that's true. He's used to it, isn't he?
So look, we were talking earlier, Matthew, and look, we like guests on this show can talk about absolutely anything. So you haven't been told about this in advance, but I'm just really interested in this UFC thing on Sunday, which is being broadcast obviously in the UK Monday morning at 1 o'clock in the morning. It is live, but it's just obviously with the time.
It's a form of bare knuckle sort of fighting, isn't it?
It is bare-knuckle fighting. It's enjoyed by a lot of right-of-center conservatives, patriotic Americans. The president has made this a signature part of America 250 right there on the White House lawn. It is pretty exciting. I don't watch a lot of UFC, but there's a lot of excitement in Washington.
So Donald Trump, I think Donald Trump's genius, if indeed you are going to call him a stable genius, is that he can connect with an ordinary American in a way that George W. Bush was famous for, but Donald Trump has taken to the next level.
Yeah.
Now, he does it in two ways. Number one, being interested in things that they're interested in and saying the things that they say. But number two, by knowing who the enemy is and winding them up. Is this just about saying that in this cultural celebration we're going to include something for Homer Simpson, or is it saying we know how much this is going to really upset the lefties?
Well, why not both? You know, for decades, Donald Trump, before he was president of the United States, enjoyed WWE wrestling, which is, again, I grew up watching wrestling.
I used to go to boxing with Muhammad Ali. I mean, the thing with Trump is he's not a noble sort of upper-class American. He's rich, he's a billionaire, but he's like a normal American, likes normal American things.
He would enjoy the opportunity to scrap, and that's why we saw him for decades enjoying boxing, wrestling, and now UFC, which a lot of the ownership of UFC is supported, and they are conservative or right of center.
I'll tell you what is interesting. I remember I wrote an appraisal of Donald Trump's speaking style. And I have to say, I originally thought that he spoke English with a German sentence structure, but he would have sounded like Yoda if he'd done that, who literally does do that. He tends to put a lot of subclauses into his speeches. But the thing I noticed more than anything else is that his professional background was speaking at WWF or WWE, as we now call it. That sort of, you're a preliminary and I'm going to kick your ass, brother, and all this sort of stuff. He does talk like that.
Trash talking.
And the sort of them and us, and the sort of playful aggression. And what I mean by playful aggression is it's all about I can kick your butt and all this sort of stuff. Not more playful than real threats of violence, if you see what I mean.
Well, in addition to that, he does what's called the weave, and that is where he will meander through stories.
Yeah.
And it's really, as someone who's seen him speak in person to smaller crowds a number of times, it's actually very endearing.
He goes off at tangents, doesn't he? Yeah.
Well, you would call them tangents, and one would call them tangents if you've debated at the Oxford Union, but the thing that he is able to do is keep your attention and navigate several stories at once. And
I think the mistake they make with Donald Trump speaking, and this would be my serious advice to the White House, which I think actually they did in the end. I think there is a great... Americans love the auto cue, and actually I think there's an over-reliance and an over-love of it. And I think sometimes we don't use it enough, and American politicians use it too much. What I would do with Donald Trump is I would give him a series of bullet points and statistics on pieces of paper, right? Rather than saying... Because of course, what happens is, on the auto cue, it'll say... we're going to do a deal with Iran. And they'll go, we're going to do, believe me, it's going to be the best one you've ever seen. It's going to be a great thing. Deal with Iran. And you think that sounds a bit strange. Where if you just said... Point number 1, Iran deal. Point number 2, reform Medicare. Point number 3, do you know what I mean?
I don't think he reads it. I think he does do it from his head.
No, he goes on the auto cue. He started more recently. He's gone on to bullet points, but the auto cue to start with, he was awful with the auto cue. But I'll tell you who the worst person with the auto cue of them all was. Dan Quayle. He used to misread it all the time, and it sounded like he was saying stupid stuff. Like, I went to Latin America. It's such a shame I couldn't speak Latin because I couldn't speak. I mean, that was the worst one, wasn't it? Anyway, Matthew, what is the? So this is the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. Presumably, Joe Biden brought in a load of lovies to do things like performative dance and things like that. What else can we expect in this year of celebration, the 250th anniversary? What other good stuff is it going to be?
Well, I just watched on Tuesday night Young Washington, which was produced by Angel Studios. Now, you guys may not be appreciative of this, but this is George Washington about a decade or two prior to the American Revolution when the French were the bad guys. So shout out to those guys. Really great production. Freedom 250 has put on a number of activities, including the Great American Fair, which is set up on the mall. There'll be concerts, and there's just the general revelry that exists in the United States around Independence Day. Of course, if you zoom out, we had King Charles and Queen Camilla visit just a couple of months ago, and I thought that was a really great visit for this special relationship, even though obviously we have Sir Keir Starmer who's doing everything he can to mess that up. But there are many, many things happening, not only in Washington, but around the country, a lot from the president and Freedom 250, but also from communities across the country who really look to this as a significant celebration.
People are proud, aren't they, in America? You know, no matter where they're from, all the communities. This is what we don't have that in this country. That's the big difference. New communities in America, like, you know, what's happening in Minnesota, are they proud of it? There's a lot of anti-American cultures have moved in there, aren't there?
Well, what we do see, and yes, on the immigration front, we've got big question marks about whether or not you're proud to be American.
It never used to be like that, did it, with your immigrants?
It didn't for the longest time, but what we do see is at naturalization ceremonies, when people become Americans, those are very patriotic events. And we also see in the polling that Republicans tend to be a lot more patriotic now than Democrats, more likely to say they're proud of their country. That comes from Republicans. And I hope that over the course of the next 3.5-4 weeks that we're able to celebrate America and our...
Matthew, is there in the UK, particularly in England, there is a huge snobbery towards the English. And effectively, there is an attitude which I think goes back to the invasion of 1066, where the French became the rulers of England. There is a great sense that continental Europe is really the place of culture. Continental Europe is where intelligent people go, you know, and everything in continental Europe is better than everything in England. I get the impression that there is a similar snobbery in the United States of America towards American things, and quite often, the Democrats see the flyover states as backward hicks. And
like what's happened in New York with Mamdani and all that.
Yeah, I get the impression that it's not necessarily. With that group of people, they don't believe a foreign country, i.e. France, is better, but they believe that sort of, people from New York are intelligent, whereas people from Alabama are thick. Is that fair?
That is absolutely right. The coastal elites, so people in New York, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, San Francisco, even Chicago to a certain extent, think very differently and think down on the people from places like Tennessee, where I'm from, or Nebraska or Colorado. You see a lot reflected on the coast.
They think you're rednecks, don't they? They think you'll act or talk like that and rednecks and like that sort of thing. It's like what we, sometimes people think down south, they think that are northerners and people from Cornwall. It's that sort of thing.
Well, as somebody who's seen The Only Way is Essex, I can tell you that is quite an accent.
That is true, yeah. Quite a hard one to take on. So what is the in the feeling out in the States with the World Cup? People don't really care about footballs or soccer ball, as you call it, because they only care about their own sports.
I think that you might be a little wrong on that. There's an Irish pub down the street from where I'm sitting right now.
There always is.
The most popular Irish pub for football, for your football, and it is packed to the gills every time there's a game. I think Americans are hospitable in that regard. There are a lot of folks who would love an excuse to drink at 11 a.m. on a Saturday, and I think that we're seeing the Irish pubs and other places that are playing.
But I think there's two sides to this. If you look at the global football elite, they would love to bring America in. But as long as American football remains the most popular sport in America, actually America will not dominate global football, because when you are talking about the richest and most powerful country on earth, relatively quickly they would. I mean, you've seen what Saudi Arabia has done with the amount of money that it's pumped in. If suddenly the most popular sport in New York was soccer or British football, whatever you want to call it, then New York would be the best team in the world. Because the money that would roll in would be... I mean, the Premier League has made the UK, or rather England, own the most powerful league in the world. What the Americans would do to it would be transformative. And, of course, we then ask ourselves, do we want America to be a middling nation in football, or do we want it to be absolutely dominant? And question mark.
But they'd ruin it. They'd have timeouts and they'd have loads of all gaps in it. You see, America, you have a very low attention span, so all your sports stop and start. And like an American football match lasts about 5 hours, but it stops.
But cricket lasts 3 days.
And then they have two teams. They bring another team and they go, this is our offensive team, and now all you go and sit down and we bring on our other team to do the...
Yeah, but cricket lasts 3 days.
Yeah, I know, but there's, it's not really to watch the cricket. It's eating a few drinks.
But that's what they're doing. It's just they're having cola and hot dogs, not cucumber sandwiches and warm beer.
But they call it all the World Series, in basketball. They're the only ones in the world that play these sports. But I mean, what is the biggest? Is baseball the biggest, or is it American football? Is it basketball or hockey? Does it change, or is there always one that's dominant in America?
It depends on the time of year. I can tell you this: no French team has ever won the Super Bowl, and no Swedish team has ever won the World Series. And so I do think there's a sense of American pride in the sports that we do enjoy. I was just at the Congressional Baseball game last night. It's a big charitable event, and there were a ton of people out there enjoying what we call America's pastime, baseball, which is actually an incredibly boring
sport. It's a British sport, actually. It's invented in Cornwall.
Well, we've got seasonal sports that Americans love. We just move from one sport to the next.
So I was with Jennifer Ewing yesterday, the vice chairman of Republicans Overseas UK, funnily enough on Turkish TV, but that's not relevant. And we were talking about the cut through of news from abroad in the United States of America, and she made the point that what is going on in the United Kingdom with two-tier policing, with anti-white racism, with...
Henry Kovac's been a massive story in the States, isn't it?
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to ask about. My understanding now is that Americans have taken a great deal of interest in what's going on in the UK. Tell me about the cut-through of Henry Novak and what's happened. Has there been cut-through? Has it been huge? And what is the prevailing view from the people you talk to?
You know, I think that there have been a number of stories that have happened over the last several years, and Henry Novak is one of them, but many of them in the United States. And we have so many issues in the U.S. with race-based, DEI and other things. And we are isolated from a lot of what is happening in Great Britain, the United Kingdom. But this story has broken through. There are quite a few other stories where it is almost like we're considering Western civilization. What is the future of Western civilization, of borders, of language, and of culture? And just like the Henry Novak situation, where you have a first-generation gentleman of Sikh religious faith who attacked and then turned it around and made it a race-based attack when he called the law enforcement. What we don't have in the United States on this issue is, to quite the extent that you do in Great Britain, is the hate speech laws.
Yes.
We do have DEI and the sensitivity training, but we don't have hate speech laws where if you called police and said, I've been involved in a racially motivated attack, that would necessarily translate the same way it did in the Henry Novak case.
It's a two-tier, because if a white person said it was a racial attack, they'd laugh at you.
Yeah, correct.
Well, and what we saw, I think the Times reported that that the police tried to change the report as Henry Novak, like
in the court case, they tried to shift the blame onto him. They also checked the father of Novak's father and his phone to try and find something racist in it, and they also measured his alcohol levels just so they could drugs, just so they could find something. Say, look, the white aggressor, and they couldn't find it, and they got in trouble for during the case trying to turn it all around. It's unbelievable.
We wouldn't see, I don't think we would see something like that in the United States, but it's absolutely heartbreaking. And as somebody who is, I do British news quite often, and just the number of stories that have happened back to back, it is really heartbreaking to see.
But you do have racial, I mean, the O.J. Simpson, it was basically black people were celebrating because the black person, even though they knew he'd murdered, he'd beaten, the white, they weren't all like that, but there was a lot of celebration because, this is what had happened. It had become racially biased. You know what I mean? People just cheering for their race.
And we had a situation earlier this week where a young African-American man, a young black man, was convicted of murder. Is 17 years old, convicted of killing a white fellow track athlete. And black activists came out and said, this is what happens to our black men, our young black boys, and it's absolutely outrageous. The young man stabbed and killed somebody, and he's being held accountable through our court system.
He got 35 years. He could be out in 17 now, apparently.
Yeah, we don't have quite as liberal or as inclusive as your legal system, but yeah, it could be about 17 years.
Just a matter of interest, because Matthew, you come on, this is your second time. We love you. As I say, we like bringing people on who can talk about anything and having a unique perspective, or at least have a different perspective. But you know what? We don't know what a Republican strategist is. I mean, I've watched programmes, I've been to America and whatever, but many of our viewers and listeners, I always say, we never talk down about our viewers and listeners. They're busy people. Many of them will be out now driving vans, making deliveries, heading to late-night jobs or in warehouse or whatever. What is a Republican strategist? What do you do all day?
Well, that's a great question, and the term is a little bit misleading. It's a catch-all. In my personal capacity, I'm the county party chairman, so the most local political party chairman. I help candidates. In my professional capacity, I work at a place called Leadership Institute, which teaches conservatives how to win elections in the states and around the world. And so that catch-all term, and I appear on programs like this from time to time. So what I do is help Republicans, help conservatives either win elections, run for office, or even get jobs in Washington, D.C., where I am tonight.
Yeah, actually, do you know what? We might call you. What county is it?
It's Arlington County, Virginia, right across the river from Washington.
Arlington, So why don't we call you the the chairman of the Arlington Republican Party? That would be the easiest.
Because that's where the cemetery is, isn't it? The Arlington.
You guys call me whatever you want, so long as you don't call me late for dinner or the beans on toast.
By the way, let me just ask you a question: Is the Crystal City restaurant still open? Because when I went to CPAC a few years ago, the Crystal City restaurant sold beers for $3. Steaks for $5 and had strippers on 24 hours a day.
Like the Witherspoons, isn't it?
Oh, it was fantastic. They were very American boobs, though. They were very fake. Yeah. Very fake American boobs.
It is.
But uniform, nice and uniform.
But so you know the place?
course
It
he
is
does.
still open, and the former owner is running for county board right here in Arlington.
Back of the
Virginia.
net.
Is he a Republican?
He is running as an independent, but he may earn the endorsement of this of the Republican committee.
By the way,
Crystal City
your US
restaurant.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio on the UFC at the White House has said we could have had a band, and we have great bands. We could have done Shakespeare in the part production. There's a lot of things we could have done with it, but this one will have people watching, probably 1 billion people all over the world.
They know what to do, these people, don't they, Matthew?
Donald Trump knows exactly what to do in the entertainment space, and he does it for the American people. And because there's a segment of the population that says orange man bad, they would oppose him if he cured cancer. And so this is what we're seeing play out over the next few weeks.
His bum's on seat, me boy. Are you going to stay with us then, Matthew, after the break, and stay with us and have another chat with us?
Yeah, I could stick around. Thanks.
OK, it's Andre and Ash on Talk. 03444991000. You want to give us a ring? We've got Michelle, Nathan, and another Nathan.
And I think what we'll do is when Matthew comes back, we're going to talk about John Healey and whether Europe is unprepared for war.
Back after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Now Neil in Belfast has been in touch to make a bit of a joke about Republican strategies, but I've got a better version. When I organised a dinner for the Republicans the night before Donald Trump's state visit to Windsor, in Windsor Guildhall, obviously quite famous for the fact that I dragged out a protester and all of the various legal wranglings around that. But what also happened was very, very funny. The number of police in Windsor is insufficient for a presidential state visit. So our good friends from the Police Service for Northern Ireland came down, and over the radio, it came across and it said, the Republicans are here and they're heading for the Guildhall. Now, it's fair to say that the Police Service of Northern Ireland at that point panicked a little bit. But the good news was that Greg Swenson doesn't look anything like Jerry Adams, and therefore they discovered it was the US Republicans and not Irish Republicans, which would have been a very different thing.
Yeah, Neil says we have Republican strategists here in Northern Ireland, but they wear balaclavas.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Now look, Matthew, one of the things that has been a great concern, I think, to us and indeed to you as a global patriotic right-wing movement, is the preparedness of Britain and indeed Europe for a potential war. I think that Britain has done better in the sense that before Donald Trump called for 2%, for us to adhere to our treaty obligation to pay 2% on military spending, David Cameron had already committed the UK to doing it. Now those numbers are going up, and that enabled us to order the aircraft carriers, which I think will be incredibly useful. But this dispute here between John Healey and Keir Starmer, which bluntly is John Healey saying that he believes that Britain, with the increase that now Keir Starmer is proposing will leave us unprepared for war. I think that has got to be a major concern. What do you say?
You know, it's an absolutely excellent question. What we saw several months ago was Secretary of State Marco Rubio come to Europe and say, we want Europe to be great. This means paying a little more of your fair share. This is just one. John Healey's resignation is just one of a dozen or more issues that Sir Keir Starmer is dealing with. Obviously, you had the municipal election just several weeks ago where reform made significant headways at the expense of Labour. You've had calls for Sir Keir Starmer to resign as Prime Minister. You guys have been talking about this for weeks, I'm certain. And so this is just one in the death of 1,000 cuts. But it's a very serious conversation to have. What is Europe and the United Kingdom's responsibility to not only defend their own borders, but to ensure a European defense of Europe with American backing? And I think it is I think it's a pretty serious question. And for John Healey to resign, that sends that is a shot across the bow in this, no pun intended, to Sir Keir Starmer on this matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Germany are suddenly going to build the Fourth Reich, it looks like. They're conscripting all they want to build the biggest army, and it's a bit of a worry. What do they think in America about Germany stepping up to the plate? Are they happy about that?
Are they conscripting North Africans? I'm not exactly sure Germany has enough of its own people to conscript.
True, yeah. But they're all leaving, aren't they? Yeah.
The situation is in a place like France, in Germany, and in Italy and other European countries, there is going to be more individuals from that nation who are signing up for the military, more investment in munitions and resources, and I think that is an important conversation, and it's a reasonable thing to do. The last time I was on this show, we talked about Germany and Japan, and for American considerations, I think it's appropriate for Japan to increase its military presence, particularly in the light of the threats of North Korea and China. So
I think look, the big advantage that Europe has through NATO is the American military industrial complex, which allows you to scale very, very quickly. Now, just to explain to people very obviously, look, you look at Ukraine in the war. Obviously, they had the Bayraktars, the very small by American standards, but very large by domestic standards, drones that were built in Turkey in conjunction with Ukraine. But obviously, Ukraine has focused on drones and moved very, very quickly. If we were in the UK to attempt to build the kit that we need from scratch right now, we would be 20 years away from delivery. However, working together as NATO, it's not true to say that all we need to do is find the money. That's not true. But that's more true than false, if you see what I mean, i.e. that there is stuff off the shelf that can be built relatively quickly, that we can buy. The training cooperation through NATO can be done. And so fundamentally, if you are the British Prime Minister, you can basically sit there and say, let's increase defence spending and defence equipment will magically appear. Whereas, of course, if you were Ukraine at the beginning of the war, you can spend as much as you like and there's nothing to buy. And I think that that's something that in so many respects makes it easy for Europe, and yet some countries don't step up to the plate.
Well, yeah, and it's an excellent point, and I think for so long Europe has relied on the United States to just be there. And I want to say this: the United States should be there for our European partners and allies under the treaties and agreements that we have signed and been party to for decades and decades. But it is not an awful thing to take on additional responsibility to maintain your borders, your language, and your culture. And I think that is a responsibility of any nation in any nation's government.
OK, so you said that there was an election going on in Arlington at the moment, and the Crystal City restaurant manager is running. What elections have you got going on, and what's your day-to-day as the party chairman in Arlington?
So in Arlington now, 80% of my neighbors voted for Kamala Harris in the last election.
Oh.
So I don't win many elections at the local level, but we do have midterm elections in November. We've got a school board race and a county board race. That's at the very local level. All of those are in November. And then the United States Senate race across the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so we'll be playing in these elections for the next 6-8 months. My members, we have a very robust, it's run by the local members. This is about 150 dues-paying individuals, which is large for a local county committee in a place like Virginia. And we go out and raise money and back our candidates. And then for my full-time job...
let me say this to you. Let me say this to you. I grew up in Makerfield and then became a resident in Lee. We're not going to talk about Makerfield for legal reasons. It causes problems. But let me tell you about the Lee constituency, where, you know, one of the candidates in Makerfield had held it with a majority of 25,000. You know, it went Conservative. And I believe at the next election it will go Reform. And I think it's really, really important to understand that in this changing climate, you can be in a waste of time area like Arlington and things can change. I mean, when I was a member of the League Conservative Association, there were 30 members, and then it got a Conservative MP, which is an astonishing thought. I think now Reform will win it by an absolute mile. It may become the safest Reform seat in the country. So, and of course, what you do anyway is ensure that if you keep your end up at least somewhat, then at least you get the 20% Republican vote, which contributes to that important congressional election.
One of the things that we say at leadershipinstitute.org is you can't beat somebody with nobody. And so in these instances where, particularly in the elections with Reform, the municipal elections a few weeks ago, filing candidates, even in a place where you don't think you can win, it is so important. So for your viewers and listeners who have principles and a worldview where Great Britain can be great and England can be great, it is important to get involved in the very local level of politics. And anybody can do that, from somebody driving a truck overnight to a manufacturer, to a welder, to a teacher in a school, to somebody who stays at home and raises...
I would go even further than that. And part of the purpose of my YouTube channel, which you can find, Andre Walker, actually is this. I believe that the political left enjoy having an uneducated and unengaged society and citizenry. And I think that the more we are able to communicate with people, the more that we educate people. Because remember, look, we are in the entertainment business here, right? You know, this is not a lecture in political science at the Oxford Union, or the Oxford University. But if you were to watch this and if you were to listen to this, you would understand more about politics. And if you are telling your kids or talking about it down the pub, then actually, I believe, even if you're a lefty, right, you are helping the right win, because a more knowledgeable, a more experienced, a more educated society will recognise the weaknesses of what we're doing.
That's why a program like this is so critically important. Anybody who tunes in regularly or even casually is going to learn a little bit more about what's going on, and then they can take it to the pub. They can take it to the people they go to church. Absolutely. And the entertainment value here with you guys is just through the roof.
It's entertaining and educational. It's incredible how we
got it all. Anyway, Matthew Hurt, thank you so much. He's a Republican strategist. Now, Asher, listen, what we're doing now, we can take a few calls, I reckon.
We're going to take a few calls.
We've got 1, 2, 3 lines. But we've got 5 lines open.
We've got Mark, Nathan, Michelle, Bob, and you two. Or you can leave us a voice message on WhatsApp 03444991000, or text us 87222. Text the word talk and your message. It's Talk with Andre and Ash. Back in 2 minutes.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, let's go straight to the callers. And Kevin in Basingstoke. Come on, Kevin. Give us a bit of balance, son. Give us a bit of balance.
Yeah, I think your guest, Matthew, I think he's gone now. He's got a bit of a cheek criticising our police. Last year, there was 1,200 people shot dead by the police in the US.
Yeah,
that is more than double the homicide rate of the whole of the UK.
I've got to say to you, Kevin, there is one thing that I think is absolutely crazy about American police. If you run off and they're trying to catch you, they shoot at you. Right, I think they should only shoot at you if you're a genuine danger and you need to be shot, not because you don't want them to run off.
Is that true? Are you
Yes.
sure that's true?
Yes, they can do.
People die in America by sort of like a. There was one thing I saw. The police broke into, smashed the door down into a motel or something, shot some people in the motel and killed the people next door.
But let's just. There is one thing. There is one thing I will say. I heard something about state troopers. So obviously, there are multiple different levels of police in the United States of America. We've all heard of the FBI, obviously the National Criminal Intelligence, the National Criminal Investigation Group, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Then obviously they've got the statewide police, and then you've got the local sheriffs. Right, so a lot of people, the reason they would come into contact with the state trooper is he will be patrolling the big roads in between settlements. Now, in fairness, a state trooper goes out on his own. They earn about $100,000 a year, by the way. He goes out on his own and pulls a car over. Now, remember, he might be 3 hours' drive from the nearest police station, right? He gets his gun out and he's incredibly paranoid because he doesn't know whether the guy's got a gun. The guy may well have a gun. The guy may well have a gun legally. And, of course, the problem is because people are so paranoid, things can happen. I'm not saying it should happen, but it does.
Well, there's 2 policemen in America killed, shot dead every week. It's nothing like here. The amount of gun crime in America is beyond comprehension. They've got 2 a week, 2 coppers killed a week in America.
Well, I think last year there was about 20,000 people murdered in the US last year.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a school shooting. I think for a school shoot, sort of like, I don't know, weekly or monthly.
I think it's the biggest killer. I remember one statistic of black guys under like 30 or 20. It's the biggest killer.
Well, you've got to be slightly careful when you say the biggest killer of young men under the age of 30. Right? Not many young men under the age of 30 die.
Well,
right?
yeah, that's exactly it, yeah.
So almost none die of natural causes, which is why suicide is the biggest killer of men under 30. And I imagine it is gun crime in America. I'm not saying that makes it right. I'm just saying that in general terms, if you are alive aged 18, you're going to be alive aged 40.
Well, I mean, also the police training in America, I think you can, to become a cop, it's something like, in some states it's 3 to 6 months. Some other states it's 6 months to 12 months. I mean, and they all carry guns. I mean, in the UK it's 3 years training, and if you want to be an armed police, it's a lot longer.
We had a guy on
well,
the show.
there are just to be clear. I mean, my understanding of that is that there's training and probation, but there's also training and being a rookie officer in America, where you go out with a more senior officer. But I take your point. Donald Trump is with you. Donald Trump made the point that the standard of policing in some states in the United States of America is very low, and he was threatening federalising police training.
Yeah, but Donald Trump, I mean, you shouldn't bring his name up when you're talking.
Yeah, but you might not like him, but he made the same point.
When there was rioting in the White House, I mean, people died in there and seriously injured. He released those people. People that had actually killed policemen, he released them. And some of those people he released went on to be involved in...
He pardoned them, didn't he? Yeah.
I mean, okay, Kevin in Basingstoke, we're going to leave it there. By the way, Jay has been in touch from Dorset, and they said, I assume it's I don't know whether it's a man or a woman. Is Andrea Walker the most boring man on the radio? No idea. Don't know who Andrea Walker is.
Who the hell is Andrea Walker?
Right.
Yeah, we had a guy on the show once who was a sort of private contractor, and he used to, you know, you could hire him. A lot of American forces hired him. And he was an expert in what they called killology. His name was Colonel David Grossman. We had him on the show about 30 years ago, and he said, we had him on talking about men and women on the front line, and he was an expert in killing and warfare. And he said, you can't have men and women on the front line together because they'll start having sex. And he said, what happens is you get this primal urge for sex on the battlefield, and this is what would happen. And he had these whole theories about it. Anyway, on that bombshell, let's talk to Michelle.
No, let's not talk.
Have we got this thing?
Yeah, where's
Michelle,
the readout?
we've got a little read, but let's talk to Michelle in London first. Oh. Michelle.
Favourite boys. Andre, I didn't see it, but you got up on your desk because people were phoning up, and they were absolutely overwhelmed that you took the knee for Henry.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think it's I think that I personally don't believe in those gestures, but I think if we're going to take the knee for George Floyd, who has never met somebody from the United Kingdom, let alone being British or having been here, then I think that we should recognise that Henry Novak was the victim of a racist attack and was the victim of racist police.
Well, everybody absolutely adored you for that.
Oh, thanks so much.
Because I was in hospital, but the next day people were phoning up Julia, and I just thought, wow, the first time I've ever missed you, gentlemen.
It's always the way.
Why didn't you video it?
Oh, I was in A&E, I was in ICU, and I was gutted.
Nevertheless.
But, I was really, proud because people were just overwhelmed. And personally, we hear about all this and that, but that really touched my soul, that did, and I'm very proud of you. Now, getting back to...
Well, let me just answer that by saying we are all a team together, and you know, we are in a privileged position because we get to do this for a living, thanks to you guys.
Yeah,
and so
there's no I in team, Michelle.
No, I know that.
But there is a me.
At the day, it touched everybody. It really did, because you made such a point, both of you.
I couldn't do it as well. The desk would have broken.
Yeah, we couldn't have done that.
I know you.
And they've got all the faders. Would have done my knee in on these faders.
Yeah, but you
imagine them going in their kneecap. These faders, one of these things. Imagine that going in your kneecap.
Oh, shut up. You're such a babe. But you've lost a lot of weight, so stop losing weight. But
I've put on a bit, actually.
You don't have to do anything. It's just your mannerism. And I think you're both the best, and I love you. And I was gutted I missed that. Well, anyway, we're talking about...
it's on YouTube.
This, that and the other. Oh, is it on YouTube?
Yeah, you can watch
I
those
think
shows on YouTube.
I'll be honest with you, I put it on my own YouTube.
It's last Thursday on YouTube.
It's only good.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Did you know we only just learnt that? Yeah, we're on YouTube last Thursday, yeah.
Well, I'm old. I just
You don't sound that old.
You don't sound old. You only sound about, 66?
Oh, you keep flattering me when I phone that ass. I'm going to take you out for a cup of tea.
No, you can't do that. He's after a pint. He's a man.
A pint of tea.
Oh, no, I know, Andre, you like a cake. You'll have to come round to mine. Yeah, nice bit of cake and a cup of tea.
It's not cake.
Anyway,
Cup of tea and a slice of cake.
Yeah, slice of cake. Anyway, what the point is, what is really getting on my nerves is everybody, and I mean, we're all human, right? When you watch wildlife programmes, it's all the females...
What programmes?
Wildlife.
Yeah, you know, like wildlife.
Oh, yeah, wildlife, yeah.
The women, the females, they will tack to their death to protect their cubs.
What,
So
Michaela Strap-on? She does a lot of the nature programmes.
Yeah, but it's
What are you saying, Michaela Strap-on?
What is your problem?
Chris Packham.
What is your problem?
And Michaela Strap-on.
Michaela Strap-on.
But at the end of the day, it's
Terry
instinct.
Nutkin.
Is he still alive?
No. He lost both his fingers in an otter accident.
An otter?
Yeah, don't ever stroke an otter, no matter how cute they are. They'll take your fingers off. And what happened is he was looking after an otter. It bit one finger, and he went, oh, well, it got his other hand, and it bit his other finger, which is why Terry Nutkins
so he can't do that.
He was doing gang signs. It wasn't doing gang signs. He'd been attacked with an otter. Anyway, we're going to take a little breaky.
Mind you, to be fair, if an otter tried to stroke you, you'd tear its face off.
Well, yeah, but the otter will win. Do not stroke an otter, no matter how cute and squeaky that you stroke, and their fingers are gone. Anyway, on that bombshell, we're going to go to a little break, but before that, let me tell you about this. The FIFA World Cup kicks off tonight. Well, it was last night, wasn't it? And our friends at talkSPORT over there are sending you and a mate straight to New York with Adidas. That's if you win, by the way. You know, got to get that right. The tournament's official match ball supplier. It's the ultimate trip to watch England face Panama live at the MetLife Stadium. Return flights, hotel, match tickets and spending money all taken care of. Plus, Adidas is throwing in the official try-on-the match ball, which is a lovely bit of kit, you know, and a fresh pair of boots. So don't miss out. Here's how to enter.
Your chance to win, head to our friends at talksportwin.com or text TALK to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate, or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close on the 12th of June 2026 at 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talksportwin.com. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is cultural appropriation, but it's
yeah, but
all
hang
right.
on, didn't Matt Lucas get into trouble for wearing a sombrero?
Yeah, but I'm, of course, a Geordie, so that makes it all right.
What we'll say is
what your excuse is.
It's a Tex-Mex night.
Mate.
OK. No, this is for Texas, not Mexico. And if you're going to go, Texas used to be Mexico.
It's not right.
Not my problem.
It's not
my problem.
It's not a problem. People
By the way, I
moan.
went to Mexico and they wore this. Mind you, it was kind
Of course, and they like us wearing it. It's only the white people, the middle class, moan and say we're being racist. Tell her she's being an elite level rascal tonight after I wrote to Michaela. I even blushed just sitting here, says Alison County Antrim. What, Michaela Strap-on? I mean, that was her name, and that she was a great nature presenter. Let's go to Grace in London for some morning Grace.
Oh,
Hi, you can't go around attacking our childhoods like this. I watched her in all these nature programmes and she was a perfectly nice presenter.
Do you know what I was watching? I was watching Bill Oddie's, Bill Oddie's This Is Your Life, where he disgraced himself and said he wouldn't come on. That is one obnoxious... I tell you what, I met Bill Oddie. He is obnoxious.
He is.
Horrible,
He
man.
knows about ornithology, though. Very comes in handy.
But
can I tell you when I met him, Grace? I was at I gate crashed to do at the House of Commons when I worked there, and I said to him, Oddie, can I get a photo with you? And he was angry, right, really angry.
Yeah, he's not happy.
And what we said was we were eating the canapes, and we went, why is there no chicken? And he went, this is a vegan event. We're not having any meat or any birds killed for your dinner. And I went, oh, come on, you can have your rubbish vegan food, but we want some good quality, we want some chicken satay or something. He was angry. So my mates then began going to events trying to find Oddie and make him angry because it's not very hard.
He's just angry anyway.
He is angry anyway.
He's an angry man.
Just briefly, because I'm pedantic, your American guest referred to Henry Novak's killer as first generation, but he's not first generation. He's at least second generation.
Okay.
Well, his mother was from India, wasn't he?
So that makes him second generation, to be fair.
Right. Okay. Wasn't he first generation British, though?
No, he says first generation.
His mother was Indian.
Implying that he had... Anyway.
He was not born in India, is the critical point.
Exactly, yes. I was interested in the discussion you were having much earlier in the programme about, with Chris, his name's gone from Wick, the pastor you were speaking to.
Oh, yeah, Chris.
Wickland.
Yeah, Chris Wickland.
Chris Wickland.
There was at one point he complained about us denying ourselves, which is a bit strange to me because there's a very well-known verse in Scripture where Jesus says that we should deny ourselves and take up our cross and follow him. My point being that ultimately, though I completely concur that our culture is great and better than many cultures in many ways, we are actually, as Christians, not called to put our culture first. We are expected to put...
Grace, I think you're being probably accidentally unfair there, because I know you're not somebody who would be. Look, the critical point is, when we say putting our culture first, we're talking about individually, right? I don't think he was making a point about evangelicalism. I think he was saying that our own failure to be Christian ourselves, our own failure to indulge in our own culture, our own failure personally is what is the problem. Not necessarily that we should go out and wear a badge saying I'm a Christian, I am therefore virtuous. And I think that makes an important difference, surely.
No, I wasn't saying that was what he was claiming. I'm saying that ultimately choosing to turn to Jesus is actually a different thing from culture, and it's more important than our culture.
Well, what about Grace? What Danny Kruger has said. Now, Danny Kruger obviously is former Conservative MP. I think for Salisbury, now has gone to Reform, and what he has said. And he's gone further than anybody else. So we've talked about the Church of England, we've talked about anti-disestablishmentarianism and all that sort of stuff, longest word in the English language. But he has said, look, fundamentally, the United Kingdom Constitution does not work unless we are Christians and we understand Christian culture. Because, as an example, our failure, as an example, our welcomingness is based on the fact that Christians love thy neighbour.
Yeah.
If what you want to do is behead your neighbour for not believing in Islam, then, you know, the system doesn't work. Do you see my point? Here, what Danny Kruger is saying is Christianity is so interlinked with the United Kingdom that to pull the two apart ruins the constitution.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I think what I'm saying is that to some extent, Jesus does call us to be self-sacrificial. That doesn't mean letting in people who are going to behead us, obviously. But I'm saying that
it's a bad idea.
The phrase "deny ourselves" is actually something that Jesus calls us to do. He does call us sometimes to do things we might not necessarily like to, and to love our neighbour. That doesn't mean, again, that we should be letting in dangerous people. I'm just saying that we need to sometimes be self-sacrificial as part of
make stuff that we don't want to do. There's Jesus.
Yeah,
I'm not going to join in.
And we're not.
You're not selling it, Grace. You're not selling it.
Christian. We're not actually Christian just by dint of birth.
Do-gooders.
Ultimately,
doesn't he ever want you to do something a bit naughty?
Our culture has been really shaped positively by Christianity.
Yes.
So if we want to actually be Christian, that is a.
I mean, you've always made this point, Grace, and I haven't disagreed with you on it because I don't think you're wrong, but I think there is a critical point that there are some people who are effectively culturally Christian. Now that is not a religious faith, right? It's people who've been so affected by Christianity that even though they're an atheist, they are in concert with us, and I think that is helpful. I also think those people who go to church at Christmas just because it's a tradition, I don't think that makes them Christians particularly, though it doesn't make them not Christians. But I think it is helpful in terms of bringing the message of Jesus back from the dead.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think ultimately Jesus is asking each person if we want to decide to follow him, and I think that's a really important thing. It's also separately a great thing that
we're going to have to stop you there, Grace, literally because Mark's on, and we've only got 30 seconds left. Mark, go for it. Say what you're going to say.
Yeah.